Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBox TV's podcast 246. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, along with our, again, advanced Masters champion, Johnny
Oh,
V.
geez. Yeah.
You found your niche, Johnny.
It.
25 years in, and now you're unstoppable.
I have played 3 Am Masters events, and I have won all 3 of them. All pretty close. This particular weekend actually went into a 2-hole playoff with Mike Newhouse.
How dare someone come up and try and tie you? How dare they? Don't they know you own this division?
Actually, Mike Newhouse has been playing very well in this division for the last year or two, and I had to come back to get him. I was down by 2 strokes going into the final round, and with funny story, with 3 holes to go, we come to the Standing Rocks ski hill hole. It's about 480 feet or so, straight downhill. We had a massive tailwind, and there was OB all to the right, so I was afraid to throw anything too understable because everything left is safe for a righty. And we have like a half-hour wait because there's 3 or 4 groups there. So I add up the scorecard, and I realize with 3 holes to go, I'm up by 1 stroke. I'm like, okay, cool. Just maintain, and you'll be fine. Play safe. Newhouse parks it. Like, he's within 12 feet, which is an amazing drive. My upshot gets stuck behind these wires, and I have to lay up for a 4. So now I'm suddenly down by 1 stroke. And then I go birdie to finish. Newhouse goes par birdie. And with the final hole, before we both birdie it, he grabs the scorecard. I go, do you want to know where we're at? And he says, do you know? And he kind of chuckles. I said, yeah, we're tied with 1 hole to go. We both park it, and we both go to a playoff,
Dang.
obviously. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, my gosh.
I was actually rooting. I was rooting for him to birdie the final hole because I wanted to go to a playoff. I thought that would have been, and I haven't been in a playoff that matters in
1,500 years.
Yeah, 1,500 years. So ultimately, we went to a 2-hole playoff. We both parked the first hole. I parked the second hole, and he unfortunately gets stuck by a root on his skip up, misses the putt, and I walk away champion.
Oh my gosh. So
very exciting.
Folks,
for a grand total of $94
if you're ever
in funny
curious
money.
as to how to do it, this is what Johnny V likes to call the slow play. This is the
20-year slow play.
The 20-year slow play to find his sweet spot. And here we are. And you are talking old school. I think Mike Newhouse is like
Newhouse was
10-6-5-9, I want to say, is his PDJ number. It's just literally a few below mine.
When I first started playing advanced 20 or I'd say 15 to 17 years ago, he was playing open. And now we're both in the Am Masters field.
This is where it's at, folks.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say either of us are where we thought we'd be 15 years ago, but both of us have had life jump up in the way, and now we're just kind of doing what we do.
Okay. Well, there you have it, guys. Johnny, again, champion.
Well,
just stay the heck out of his division because he will just roll over you.
938, 955, and like a 962 or something rated round. Something around those lines. Not bad. I was actually very happy with how I played ratings-wise. It didn't matter. I mean, obviously the win is what's most important, but it was nice to look at those ratings and go, wow, that's like decent golf.
Well, we're going to cut it short tonight because he has sponsorship conversations
I will
to have.
be taking phone calls from everybody.
He'll be
if you would
fielding
like,
them.
if you would like whatever product, or if you'd like to sponsor me in the Amateur Masters division.
Yes.
I'm not sure how many more events I'm playing this year. Possibly 0.
I know how many more you're winning, though.
Probably 0 if I play 0. So
all
you
right,
can contact me.
Let's move on to Dana. I gave you way too much there.
You
Let's
did.
move on to Dynamite, Dana Vici.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Dynamite. First call that Johnny's gotten here tonight is from Discmania. We know you're just scouting him. It's a good play. I like it, Dana.
I'll be showing up at the combine, so
Yeah.
beware, everybody.
Uh-huh. How we doing, buddy?
I'm on a group chat with UC and Avery right now talking about this young talent I got up that I'm scouting in Wisconsin. It's a toss-up, right? The hottest disc golfer right now, it's got to be a toss-up between Macbeth, Johnny V, Scott Withers, any of them, you know.
Scott Stokely right in there in the mix.
I don't know what Stokely's been doing.
No.
He's going under my radar personally, but he could be shredding it too. But yeah, those three names, Macbeth's JVD and Withers, they got to be the hottest in the game right now on the men's side. I'm not going to say MPO side because you know he's not playing MPO, but yeah.
Well, as you said, one of us shot 40 points over his rating, and it wasn't Paul Macbeth. Let me tell you.
No.
And 40 points over my rating is still 100 points less than his rating.
Not too shabby there, Johnny. I'm color me impressed.
Well, thank you.
All right, buddy. So there's apparently some professional golf going on in the country, Dana. As much as
I don't
you were or were not on Jomez this weekend. Were you featured?
I mean, I don't want to say I wasn't featured, but first of all, let me start with hole one. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, so Dynamite, we knew there was a lot of good golf going on. Kind of an off weekend in terms of, like, there's no national tour and no pro tour. There were pro tour either affiliate or test events, and I think in total there were 3 of those going on. 3 of the biggest ones in the country were going on. Where are we starting here, buddy?
Well, I'm going to start outside of the U.S. We're going to head over to the U.K. for the European Tour number 2, the Bluebell Woods Open. 99 total players. It was a B tier. On the men's side, Silver Lat took home the victory. He played some pretty solid golf above his 1,001 rating. He went 10-32, 10-11, 10-25 to win handily over Tony Farrow. And speaking of winning handily, on the women's side, Kristen Tatar just shredded, won by 26. For those keeping track, she's 936 rated, and her weekend went 954, 977, 966. So good shooting by both Kristen and Silver over there in the UK. And as you said, there was no NTs or Disc Golf Pro Tours this weekend, but that didn't mean it was a quiet weekend. There were tons of events going on, a number of A tiers. I am going to hold off on talking about the challenge at Goat Hill. I believe we're going to have the winner on later, so I'll let him chat about that. So let's dive into the 303 Open. This was in Federal Heights, Colorado, just outside of Denver, and pretty big event. On the men's side, we had 88 total players. That's the MPO side, and we saw a lot of tour players stopping here on their way to the next Disc Golf Pro Tour event, which is the San Francisco Open. But ultimately, none of those hot shots were able to take down the victory. They were they came up against Joe Revere. If you haven't paid attention, Joe has just dominated the Colorado scene, for years. He's 1025 rated. He's Masters eligible by, I think, maybe a couple of years or so. I don't want to offend him. I know I've offended others in the past with assuming their ages, but yeah, I think Joe's at least a couple of years Master eligible, and he came to play this weekend. And he held off some very strong competition, and he did so by jumping out to a pretty smoking round. So there were 88 total competitors in the MPO side, as I said, and 4 of them shot in the 50s for round 1, just 4. And Joe shot a 53, which was 1074 rated. Ooh. And this was on an 18-hole layout, par 67. So Johnny, do the math. Par 67, he shot a 53. How many under par is that?
Carry the 14.
14 under par. So pretty solid round. And also shooting in the 50s was Eagle McMahon, MJ, and Luke Humphreys. So moving into round 2, Eagle was able to take a stroke off of Joe, shooting a 56 to Joe's 57. Both of those were 1049 and 1042 respectively, and they really that's where they different. Boy, Jesus. Hopefully, I don't do what I did last week. Right, Johnny? I don't know if you were. I think you were on, but I kind of lost my train of thought.
Off and on, I was on last week. I was busy working down in Florida.
Yeah, it was bad. It was. I don't know if that's ever happened. But anyways, Eagle was able to pick up a stick on Joe in the second round, but ultimately Joe picked that one back up during the final round, shooting a 1048 round, ultimately beating Eagle by 2 throws. So Joe picked up $1,665 and a nice victory. That has to feel really good with the strong field that was there. All the Colorado hot shots, some tour players, including Michael Johansson, who finished in 3rd. Luke Humphreys finished in 4th place, beating Simon Lizotte, who did finish in 5th place. Simon is at kind of a quiet, I'd say, what month are we in? April, May? He's had a quiet end of April and beginning of May here. So let's look for Simon to get things back on track. He did get better as the weekend went on. We know he was coming off a cold from the GBO where he did have to drop out. So, but yeah, congratulations to Joe Revere beating Eagle. Eagle's rated 1050 now for those that didn't know, and that's 25 points behind Joe Revere's 1025. So
yeah,
yeah.
I was just going to interject real quickly and say, clearly one of the most impressive things, besides knowing just how good Joe is and how we've seen him perform over the last few years, really you have to then think about Joe's a full-time teacher. Joe works full-time. He has a wife and 1 or more kids. I know at least
2.
2 children. Of course, local to the Colorado scene. So, I mean, maybe or maybe not. You give him that little bit of a nod there. Not that Eagle isn't. It's just, I think it speaks volumes, and it's so much more impressive. You have Michael Joe, who's been a little bit injured. I get it. But is a touring professional that's, been playing quite a bit. And then you have Simon and you have Eagle, who, it's a full-time job. And it's not to knock anyone else's efforts, of course. I think it's only to elevate just how impressive it is. And then, like we said, Joe being a little bit more their elders.
It's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. Which most people would never know by looking at him. The guy's ripped. So very impressive. I mean, I don't think I can say that enough to know that you have all these touring professionals that are honing their craft and playing week in and week out, which could come with a downside from time to time. But they come into town, and Joe holds tough on his home turf, and I think that's just incredibly impressive. And so of course, hats off to him for that.
Absolutely, and as I was about to say, not the first battle between him and Eagle, and definitely will not be the last, as Eagle does like to come home from tour and play in local Colorado events. And no Joel Freeman, who was a Colorado guy. He I believe ended up in Utah, if I recall correctly. But again, congratulations, Joe. Way to hold it down. As someone that, that's always the goal for the top local players, to hold it down when the tour players come into town and beat as many as you can, or even win. And Joe was able to pull it off, and he played some really good disc golf to do so. On the women's side, this was a stacked field. 15 total women played in the FPO division, and it was a really close race from the final scores first through fourth were only separated by 3 throws. And ultimately, it was a world champ, Paige Bierkes, able to get the victory, and she was able to do so with a very strong final round. Both her and Missy Gannon shot 61s and were able to overtake Haley King, who had the lead going into the final round. Haley King is a young up-and-coming star from Wisconsin. Terry, Johnny, I know you guys both know her, but Haley's currently rated 930, and man, she's how old is she? 16, 17?
I think she's 17 now. I believe she has one more year of high school left, if I'm correct. She might be a junior this year. I'm not 100% sure on that, but she throws very well backhand. She's got a wonderful forehand, and she has a very solid Ricky-esque putt. The way she just kind of the straddle where she pulls it way back, and she can just putt very well. I mean, if she were to go on tour, I wouldn't be shocked to see her jump up into the 950s, maybe even 960 range for her rating. Yeah. It's about consistency right now for her and keeping her mental game in check.
Sure. And I think that rating is just going to continue to go up. And I believe she's on tour right now. She's been playing the last few events. She was at the Rumble, to the Glassblown Open, and now seemingly heading west. But anyways, she was unable to hold on to win the event. Paige Bierkes did swoop up and beat her. Lisa Fakis finished in 4th place. She bounced back from a tough first round that was sub 900, and then was able to go 949, 971. So that was good to see. Kona Star Paynes, she finished in 5th place. Rebecca Cox finished in 6th place. And then on the outside looking in was Holly Finley and Callie McMorrin. Both very solid players, not making the cash there in Colorado. So congratulations to both Paige and Joe. Paige, she's a Colorado native, correct? I don't know if I know she lived there for a time, but I don't know if she was born and raised there. Terry, can you?
I don't believe she was born there, because I feel like the Bierkes family has traveled to a number of different places. For some reason, that doesn't ring a bell, but I know they definitely spent some time there. But yet, if you ever see Paige's dad running around or touting a team, it's always the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I think Vikings are his football team, and is it Indians, I think, are his baseball team? I'm not 100% sure on that, but he's very, very scattered at this point. I mean, I think they've been everywhere.
I know when I got to know them a little bit better as within the last few years, before they all transitioned over to being at Dynamic Disc as employees and full-time players, that's where they had come from, was within Colorado. That was one of their last places before making that move down to Kansas.
Right on. Before I move on to the Utah Open, I've got a little subject topic that I wanted to bring up. So this right here is my current favorite hat. But having kids, your hats and other items don't always end up in one piece or how they're supposed to be. And can you guys tell that my hat the bill is a little messed up? I'm a little conscious about it, but it's my favorite hat. But what I'm getting at is, do you guys have any pro tips on how to fix the bill of a cap?
I don't think there is a way, to be honest. I mean,
I would say the closest thing that I've thought of, or that you can do, is, depending, of course, on how rounded you want it to be, typically rubber bands. If you take something like rolling up a T-shirt or something like that, get it as round as you can, and then put that in the bill, underneath the bill, and then rubber band to that, either that or some kind of a ball, and rubber band to it, and leave it that way for a long period of time. That would be my best pro tip for you, buddy.
But Dana's looking almost not quite a flat bill.
Yeah, that's just
he's just got
like
a slight curve to it.
Depending on the style you're going for. So,
all right. And if any Smashies have any pro tips, hit me up on Facebook or on the chat board. I'm definitely interested and looking. But I digress. Let's move over to the Utah Open. Another big event. This had a total of 136 players. It was a pro-am held by our friend Jade Sewell.
This is a Worlds
Utah.
preview.
Yeah, Worlds for next year. This has been a pro tour event in the past, held out at Mulligan's, but this time they brought in the Fort course along with Mulligan's and held a 3-round event. And on the open MPO side, they had 46 total players. If you were a touring pro and weren't at the 303 or you were taking off a weekend, you were here. And had some big names there, many north of 1,000 rated. Round one, Ricky Wysocki came out firing. He shot the only round in the 40s, round one, which was a 49, 1068 rated. And that was at the Mulligan's golf course. So we know Ricky's had some great success there. He's at the walk-off ace. I believe he did win. Did he win the Disc Golf Pro Tour there last year, Terry?
Yeah, that's when he won. That's when he had the walk-off ace, isn't it?
No, that was 2 years ago.
2 years ago already. Holy cow. Yeah, who did win last year?
I think I could probably tell you very shortly here. But yeah, Ricky came out firing with a really strong round. Yes, he did win there last year, and boy, looking at that, he won over $4,000 for winning that last year. One thing about Jade, he knows how to fundraise, and he definitely puts him and his crew put a lot into their events. But it looked like Ricky was going to march himself to a victory. He had a 4-throw lead. The next best was a 53 with Justin Bilodeau, who is a local, and Chandler Fry, who is out on tour now from the great state of Washington. But unfortunately for Ricky, they moved over to the Fort, and it didn't quite treat him as well as Mulligan's. Although he didn't shoot terrible, I would say for Ricky standards, it was pretty bad. He shot a 57, which was 1,004 rated, and shooting the hot round for round two was Andrew Presnell shooting a 51. Matt Bell shot a 52, but Presnell's 51 was 1054 rated, so pretty hot. But Ricky still in the mix on the lead card. It was himself, Matt Bell, Justin Bilodeau, who had 2 very strong rounds to start out the weekend, both north of 1030, and Andrew Presnell. So those guys were on the lead card going into the final round, and it was very tight. There was a 3-way tie for first with the other person being 1 stroke off, and then I believe the second card was on their heels from there. And that Fort course looks tough. It's got some woods, it's got some elevation, a creek that was raging that ultimately I believe flooded maybe 2 holes that they did have to adjust. But final round, it was it started out. I've watched some of the front 9, and Justin Bilodeau, he started out just jamming putts. He's got a killer spin putt, and if you think I've got a big beard, Justin Bilodeau has got like 3 years on me. I'm talking like down to here, and I don't know how I'm pretty sure his putt like goes through his beard, like it's an and one every time, like he's getting fouled. But anyway, Justin came out firing, jamming a couple putts, but then ran into some trouble, and that's kind of when Matt Bell took things over. And on the lead card, Matt was ultimately able to shoot a 48, which was the hot round at the Fort on the weekend, and got himself a 3-throw win over Ricky Wysocki. That final round, we saw Chandler Fry shoot a very strong 51. Alex Russell dipped into the 40s with a 49. And those 4 players, Matt Bell, Ricky Wysocki, Chandler Fry, and Alex Russell, all won over $1,000. We had young Vinny finishing in 5th place. Just Justin Bilodeau, he hung tough that final round, ultimately shooting a 56, which was 1,004 rated. I should note, Justin is now 1,000 rated. think he's one of the newer members of that club. And so congratulations to him. We saw a lot of other big names there on the weekend, but it seems like that Fort course kind of ate him up. And after watching, I'd say I didn't see the whole round, but after watching a lot of it, I could see why. There's quite a few trees and some very tricky holes. So that's going to be interesting coming up for next year's Worlds.
Dana, I don't want to sidetrack too much because we're gonna have Thomas join us very soon here. But I do want to ask you quickly, because you watch more footage than Johnny or I. One of the pieces of feedback that came through on social media was, and even here on the chat board tonight, a little bit of people talking about if that course is either Worlds or Pro Worlds appropriate or suited, or does it just need to get played more? Do you feel like they need to make any major or minor tweaks? Give us your quick impression of that course, because that's the new one that's added, and that's also what is, one of the two to be played at Pro Worlds next year.
It definitely seemed like a very difficult course. Let's take a quick look at to see what 1,000 rated ultimately it was. 56 was 1,000 rated, and I believe, trying to see what the par is 58. So a couple under par. Ultimately, was 1,000 rated, but I could see some minor tweaks going on. I guess depending on the timing, they may ultimately have to tweak some holes due to flooding again. So that's something to consider. There may be some bigger changes if it's a time of year that experiences some flooding. But I would assume with Worlds generally being in the summer to late summer, they're going to miss any early spring flooding. But yeah, I could see some small tweaks coming from here or there. But if there's one thing about Jade that I've learned and gotten to know, is that he does everything good by the books, and makes his events better and better each year. So I would expect any improvements that need to be made. They're going to check the UDisc stats. They're going to consult with the PDGA, maybe even Schustrick, I believe, who worked on that Fort design, consulting with them to make any appropriate changes that may need to be made. So this was, I'd say, the first, real big test for it. They've had some events there, but having these big tour players there and having some stats now to look at, I would definitely anticipate a few changes. Speaking of Worlds, this coming weekend is a Worlds warm-up out at Northwoods Park in Morton, testing out the gold layout, which I believe I talked about a few weeks ago and gave very high praises. Nate Heinold and his crew of Greg Nettles and Kip Topher, they've created a really difficult but fun, challenging course, and I'm looking forward to getting over there. And if anyone's in the Illinois or greater Illinois area, you should definitely consider heading over to Morton this weekend to play that event.
Awesome. What did we see on the FPO side out there in Utah, Dana?
Yeah, FPO side was a little bit smaller. Seemingly, most of the FPO tour players were in Colorado, but there's 6 FPO players, and Jessica Weiss was able to get the victory. It was a very tight race after the first round with all players in contention, and then they kind of separated from there. So the mulligans didn't provide a whole lot of separation for them. The scores ranged from 63 to 69. And then when they headed over to the Fort, that's where they really saw the spread come into play. And ultimately, it was Jay Weezy, Jessica Weiss, shooting a 16 over par, beating Lauren Butler by 2 throws. Ruby Hall finished in 3rd, with Karina Knowles in 4th, and Sheila Kirkham and Amy Bilodeau rounding things out on the FPO side.
Okay, very cool. Well, congrats. Of course, Jessica's had some success there in the past. I think she really enjoys being there, and I know she, like all of us, just continuously echoes the sentiments about what Jade and his entire crew. I know Rob Bullen, who's usually out there calling off the names. He's a very active Smashy. He's out here on the board and has already said hopefully there shouldn't be any form of flooding issues when Worlds takes place June 13th through the 20th next year. So we're back to an early Worlds, which is another conversation for another day, but that's a very, very early Worlds yet again, being in the June month. But they do everything so well out there. They take feedback and criticism. I know Paul Macbeth even chimed in after seeing some of the coverage this weekend, and there was a little dialogue on the Facebooks. So great to see the team working hard, and we just really expect nothing less of them anymore. They've set a very high bar and a very high standard out there, and there's a reason why a lot of people talk about going and playing the Utah Open and other events that those guys are putting on. They do a great job, so good to hear it.
Absolutely. Speaking of great job, I played locally at kind of an alternative style format, the King of the Canyons. This was an invite tournament at the Canyons of Delwood Park, and essentially tournament director Sean Callahan invited a bunch of players, and the format was the top half scores for each round move on. So this was a 4-round event, but you may only end up playing 1 round. Myself, I only got to play 2 rounds. I was eliminated after the 2nd round. Kind of a poor finish there, but really fun format. Ultimately, we saw your boy, Robert McCall, come down and play some really good disc golf. He ended up tying for the lead, although he was unable to win. Kyle Opfer, who is a Discmania Combine pickup, he was able to take the win. He's a relatively newer player to disc golf and the MPO side, but he's got a ton of talent. He can throw the disc really far. We'll see what this does for Kyle's year, if it kind of gives him that confidence. Definitely gave him a couple bucks. He won over $2,000. This was a high dollar event. Cost a lot to get in. I know Sean was looking to get a bunch of touring pros, but ultimately we only ended up with a handful, including Paul Ulibarri, who was eliminated the 1st round.
Awkward.
Ouch. Ouch.
Yeah.
Reverse shout out.
But so I don't know if I should give him a big hug. I'm going to give him a big hug just because I love Yuli. But he was him and DG Mike also eliminated 1st round. Went out.
DG Mike.
A bunch of the guys that were eliminated played a cash round during the 2nd round, and Yuli took all their money. And then it wasn't over from there. Al Hermosillo was a few drinks in and challenged Yuli to a $100 cash round, or maybe vice versa, whatever. $100 cash round at another course went on afterwards, and Paul ultimately was able to win a couple more dollars. So while he was eliminated,
now they bet cash or did they bet 12 packs? I don't know what the currency is down there in Illinois these days, or when some of those players show up. I'm just not sure.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I was there before the round started. I didn't stick around because Ashley and I were getting some dinner, but there was probably 20 plus people hanging out watching that round. There was Facebook Live for it, a lot of people watching, so it was a fun, laid back thing, and clearly everybody was cheering for Al, and I got to commend him for his confidence. But ultimately, Yuli showed why he's one of the best players in the game, even though he got eliminated 1st round from our local event. But was able to take it down and beat Al. So that's about all I got. There was a bunch more events, but I know you guys got to talk to some Canadian before you guys get him on. Shout outs got to go to Emerson Keith for winning A tier down in Oklahoma. Winning over in Virginia was Andrew Fish. He's having a great year. Sounded like he forgot to putt for a little bit, but it sure looks like he remembered this weekend. And as I mentioned at the beginning, one of the hottest players in disc golf, Scott Withers, was able to get another victory. He's won I don't know how many events in Oregon and the Northwest, but he did it with shooting 1023, 1061, 1070, won by 18 throws. Shooting some really good disc golf right now. And then Johnny mentioned he did play the Standing Rocks Open. Got to give a big shout out to Terry Roethlisberger, one of the nicest kids in disc golf. One of my favorite Minnesotans. Just good kid, great disc golfer all around. Terry was able to play some really solid disc golf and get the win there at Standing Rocks. So that's about all that caught my eye over the weekend that I wanted to talk about. I appreciate you guys for having me on, and boy, am I glad I didn't. Did I blank out and stare at the screen at all like last week?
Don't believe you did.
I don't think so. So I don't know if I'd go as far as saying job well done, but at least you didn't.
Whoa.
No, I'm just kidding. You did great, Dana. We love you. And we could see you tonight. You were awake. Everything was A-okay, buddy.
Except for the bill of that hat.
Yeah, except my crooked hat. And I'm going to go back and look at the comments and hit me up on Facebook if you've got a pro tip on how to fix this hat.
There was one that came through. Joe PG said something about checking out. Scroll up through the comments. He had a good site or something to check out. I think you can go buy a tool that will help out, and I'd be all about that. You should do that, buddy.
I'm going to check that out.
Perfect Curve Hat Shaper, not an official sponsor of the program just yet. Ding.
We're working on it.
Okay.
I'm surprised you mentioned it then. You're usually pretty tight-lipped for non-sponsors of the old Smashbox. But hey, thanks again for having me, Smashies. Thanks for tuning in. Alan Risley, you know they're going to talk about the Goat Hill with the Goat Hill champ here next. That's why I didn't talk Goat
bro.
Hill.
Gosh.
Gosh darn. All right, well, Smashies, we'll see you hopefully next week. And thanks again, boys, for having me.
All right, buddy.
Thanks
have a good night.
Dana.
Thanks, Dynamite. There you guys have it. Illinois' own Dynamite Danavici. A lot of people, just a quick side note, a lot of people, in case you're not familiar with the Midwest, it is not Illinois. Even people from both Illinois and Wisconsin and the surrounding area will occasionally mispronounce it that way, but that S is silent, so I'm just going to throw it out there. But when I wanted to say Illinois' own, it felt awkward saying it because I know there's not an S there, but in the reference that I was using, it did make sense. I think Robert McCall would say words are tough. So, all right. Johnny V is going to try and dial up our champion on the MPO side, Thomas Gilbert. This is the first time he has ever joined the show, so hopefully AJ gave him a quick tip or two, and hopefully he's in a good spot.
My funny comment about Thomas Gilbert was at the GBO, he was sitting between Nate Sexton and Big Germ, and I have the Disc Golf Pro Tour cards. I went to go get them signed by him, and I wasn't really looking between them. I saw that someone, and I thought it was Calvin Heimberg, is what I thought, just out of the corner of my eye, and I was like, hey, and I had them sign it, and I said, oh, don't worry, I'll get you like next year for your rookie card or something. And then I looked on the left side of me, and I see Calvin, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, oh, it's Thomas.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look at that.
That's that other smart-looking fella.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think
doubt.
we're ready to pull him into the show. This is his first time ever here on SmashBoxxTV. Johnny's got him in the digital green room. We're going to make a quick adjustment.
I'm just going to adjust one little thing with this picture.
I'm guessing he can hear us. He can give us a head nod if he can hear us. And then I saw no head nods.
Can you hear us there, Thomas?
You got to click another button, perhaps?
I don't think so. Hold on. Maybe.
All right. So Johnny's going to he's going to keep working on some buttons, and we're going to see if we can get him here in just a second. So, yes, Alan Risley, AJ's dad, is out on the board wanting to know if, in fact, we are going to talk about Goat Hill, and, of course, we're going to do just that real quickly, and we'll talk a little bit about it with Thomas. Shout out Jen Allen. Really went, for all other purposes, uncontested this last week, and I think it was 38 or 39 strokes or something in that neighborhood that she won by. Very, very impressive on her part. So congratulations to her. I think there was a 5-woman field. We'll get confirmation on that in a few moments.
I'm going to get that audio here set up in just 2 seconds, and then we'll have him up on there. If I can just...
All right.
Hold on 1 second.
Also, of course, I had a quick conversation with Ian Anderson over at Central Coast Disc Golf today. He had, of course, nothing but
Oops, that was not supposed to happen.
Favorable things to say about Thomas and his game. He said that he also enjoyed being there at the event this weekend, and I'm excited to hear more about the course because I didn't get a chance to see the coverage. But he said that it wasn't just hyzer off the tee, or nothing but hyzers, and that's what you find commonly when you go to golf courses. They have room for galleries. They sometimes can be lacking on obstacles, but it sounds like the layout and the design that's out at this course isn't necessarily that. There's certainly length. I believe it comes in at over 10,000 feet, but it sounds like there's a little bit more challenge to it than just the distance. So as Johnny continues to click the buttons, I also have a few other notes that I'm going to touch on while he's doing that. I'm going to start making up notes for myself, Johnny, just for these reasons.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, isn't that smart of me? Something I saw last week, I'm going to sidetrack briefly while he does that. Team captains are, we just spoke of Paul Ulibarri a few moments ago. Team captains are being voted upon by both the European and the American side for the President's Cup that's going to be taking place here in another month or two. And you have your chance to go out and vote for the United States team captain. I guess you could probably vote for the European team captains as well. But for the United States, and the 3 people that are up for vote as the United States team captains are Avery Jenkins, Nate Sexton, and Paul Ulibarri. So I'm not Ulibarri.
Of course, it's not. Let me hold on 1 second, everybody.
So anyway, so you can go out and do that, and I believe this. I'm going to double check if it's the European Open website.
All right,
I saw it on the Facebook.
Hold on 1 second. All right. So then,
are we back?
Yeah, we should be back in a second.
All right. Well, for those of you in the late 80s, early 90s, referencing our favorite New Kids on the Block, we're just hanging tough here.
Yeah. This doesn't want to. So the problem right here is our Skype, because Skype is being Skype, doesn't want to register. Oh, the microphone is set to that. All right, that's good. That's a good sign. Thomas, we're going to get you on right now. There we go. Should
Folks,
be able to hear it now. Thomas,
all right.
Perfect. All right. Sorry about that. For some reason, it wasn't picking up our microphones. And
so as soon as we get if you could click on the little video button again so we could see you again, we'll bring you back in.
All right. We're back. Here we go. Without any further ado, we have Thomas, the Canadian Gilbert.
So seamless here, buddy. That's how we do things at Smashbox. Welcome to the show.
Just ask AJ.
How you doing?
Thank you. Good.
Good. So let's start with we're going to start right off the bat. Big win this weekend. Is it the biggest of your career?
Yeah, I'd say so far. Definitely the biggest in my career.
And now you have not been playing golf all that long. Give all of our Smashies out there a little bit of your backstory. And I'll admit, I don't know a ton of your backstory. I know you. We've met. We've talked. But I don't.
Yeah.
Usually I know everyone's backstory, and I just but I don't know yours. What is it?
Yeah. So I've been playing disc golf for 3 years now. Kind of got started after a friend showed me. I was interested in ultimate throughout early school, and so just kind of picked up disc golf naturally through a friend.
And where were you playing? How old exactly were you? And how old are you now? You're young enough that that's not impolite to ask.
So I was 16 when I found disc golf, and now I'm 19, and yeah, just found it I was in Toronto, and so played a bunch of the courses there. There's a more beginner-friendly one, ET Seton, and then eventually Toronto Island, which is a pretty well-known course. It became my home course.
So who do you have? Of course, very short period of time, and you've obviously accelerated your skills very quickly. Who did you have either there or beyond that were influencers or someone that could mentor you or you could truly learn from, like a coach or someone that took you under a wing?
Yeah, well, actually, I think the second time I ever was on a disc golf course, a guy approached me, Henrik London, and he kind of came up and said, like, hey, you guys look like you're having fun playing disc golf, so let me give you a few tips on like proper form. And that helped me a lot, just kind of build those good habits super early into my career, I guess. And that just helped me build on some of the good habits that I've seen through like videos and stuff. Like he pointed me to a few things that I could watch and learn from, and that's helped a ton.
So dare I ask, and we don't need the whole breakdown, but what do you feel like if you had to give a tip or two? What do you feel like encapsulate a good habit? Are you specifically talking technique, or are you talking routine, or a combination of those?
Yeah, mostly technique. Like I didn't have like the arm curl or the like wrist snap on a drive. Like I was doing the like straight back lawnmower pull through from the second day I ever played disc golf. So I think that was the main reason why I was able to kind of build up my form and technique to like a good level so quickly.
Now, then I have to, unlike old school Johnny and I here, I have to assume then, you take to YouTube, whether it's actual form and technique videos and instructionals or even just golf, regular shot-by-shot coverage. Did you analyze, did you break down some of what you were seeing there and look at all that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as like I discovered disc golf videos, I was watching every disc golf tutorial, like all the old Discraft technique videos, and watching all the coverages. I remember watching Jomez when they still had the like inputted graphics for each one of the holes, and and just watching all those videos and kind of watching some of those guys play and trying to kind of analyze some of their techniques and say, okay, how can I apply this to my game?
And when you were looking at some of those, techniques and trying to learn, did you feel like you were going after maybe a style, or were you possibly trying to emulate someone of maybe a similar physical structure? Like, did you say, oh, well, I'm maybe a little taller, I'm more like a Simon as opposed to
a double G,
yeah, for instance?
Yeah. I wouldn't say like I specifically modeled it after one particular person. I mean, I heard all the things that you're supposed to be doing and kind of based it more off that, like getting a strong reach back, like rotating my hips back and all that stuff. So that kind of helped. Like I definitely was like watching some of Simon's slow-mo videos and stuff when he was doing the distance showcases at the desert and stuff like that, and saying, okay, how did he throw it world record distance? And so I was like analyzing that to try to implicate that into my form.
So who did you look up to as a golfer? I mean, and maybe it's the same as who you looked at for form, but who were some of the golfers that you looked up to or admired?
I mean, definitely anybody that I saw in the video coverages up in that early part of the game. But then once I actually got more involved in the sport, a big mentor became Martin Hendel, another Canadian disc golfer, because he was the pro in Canada. And so kind of connecting with him and practicing and touring with him for a little bit definitely helped and improved my game and modeled my game a little bit as well.
And him and his sister Sandy, they both play quite a bit. When you got to that tournament scene, of course, you're learning these skills, and again, they obviously improve very quickly. What was it about the tournament scene that either attracted you or kept you hooked in it, or the competition, whatever it was? What kind of got you hooked on it all?
Yeah, I love the competition. I mean, I was kind of just like playing it for fun at the beginning, but then once I started kind of finding my place in the competition and playing like AM events and starting to be competitive in that and winning, and then moving to the open field. And the competition isn't as heavy in Canada as it obviously is in the States, so kind of like climbed those ranks pretty quickly. But that was just so exciting and thrilling to be playing so well in the area I was in, and so I immediately got the hunger for more competitive play.
So I don't know how the school system, we're from America. We don't understand anything about Canada, but I'm assuming you just got done with like a high school type program if you're around the age of 19.
Did you go to Degrassi? I think everybody wants
No.
to. Okay. It's the only
No.
Canadian school I know.
Okay. So I'm assuming you just completed some form of high school.
Yeah, I actually finished off high school last year, and then did the kind of full tour after I got out of that, and then went back to university, first year university in the fall, and then just finished up my second semester just before I left for Rumble. Like literally, I had an exam Monday at 9 o'clock and was on a flight 6 a.m. Tuesday morning.
Okay, and that was my next question is, now that you've moved into this competitive space and you really enjoy it and you love touring and everything that's about it, is it still going to be kind of just fit in around going to school? And if so, what are you studying in school?
Yeah, definitely. Right now, like based off where I am, I'm still planning to do school part time and focus on that a little bit as well in the off season. And yeah, right now it's just kind of going day by day, kind of seeing how the tour goes. It might change, and I might take a semester off, or I might continue playing disc golf. And who knows? I mean, I'm not even 100% sure what's going to happen right now. But yeah, right now I'm taking a kinesiology degree up at Laurentian University in Canada with concurrent education. So that's really cool, and enjoying that while I'm not disc golfing.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was just going to say. I mean, those are some really tough crossroads. You clearly are passionate. You clearly are good at disc golf. And then you're just at that age where it's like, going out and being crazy and traveling around the country. Sounds like a great time. And I don't mean crazy like party, just the fact that you can, you're young enough with, probably not as many responsibilities as most to go out and be able to experience all of this. So you go from the Rumble, down to GBO, and then we find you out at Goat Hill. Kind of before even Goat Hill, kind of recap those other two events. The Rumble, not too far from us, about 3.5 hours, and then obviously everyone in the world was down at Glassblown. But kind of recap those two events first.
Okay. So Rumble was just kind of a fun event that like I knew it was a Jomez filmed event. I knew it was a UDisc event and a USDGC qualifier. So, I mean, like I was like, okay, if I can get out of school early enough, I'd love to go play that event. It looked like a lot of fun. I was watching your disc golf guide coverage from the year before and wanted to play those courses, and so decided to go down there before GBO and hooked up with Reed Viscura and Andrew Marweed and had a fun time at that event. And then drove the 7 hours down to GBO and met up with Nate Sexton, Jeremy Coling, and Chandler Fry, and stayed with them for the week. And it was a great tournament for me as well there. I mean, I played pretty well the first 2 rounds, ended up on chase card the 3rd round, which was a really cool experience being on Jomez. And I mean, a good event, finished pretty solid for, I think, a 15th place finish, which was, pretty good. And
I'd say so.
yeah. And then traveled the 22 hours with AJ down to Goat Hill.
All right, so let's step right into Goat Hill. We talk about golf course. We talk about 10,000 feet. Clearly having a big arm, isn't going to hurt you at all out there. But give everyone a quick overview of the course. People like myself, I haven't seen any of the coverage. How would you describe the course to someone that's never been out there?
I would say it's a very nice golf course and has a lot of good elevation, which I think is really good for any disc golf course to have some elevation change. Yeah, big, long, open holes. I think the shortest hole, which was a par 3, was 330 feet, which is still a big hole for some people, and the longest holes being over 1,000 feet. And yeah, I felt like I was throwing a distance driver off at least 15 of the tee pads. So that's the kind of course it is, and really rewarding the big arm throwers and making it kind of simpler for the upshots on some of those longer holes.
And what kind of practice? I know that was a huge hike across the country, as you said, 22 hours. What kind of practice were you guys able to get in? And then was it with AJ, or were there other people that had any insights to help?
Yeah, so AJ wanted to have a nice day to relax back home as soon as he got back. So I went with his dad, Alan Risley, to the course because he was still perfecting all the little things about the course. And so I got a ride with him over and played 2 practice rounds, one with a local guy that just kind of drove me around explaining some of the holes, and then another one with Seppo and Max Nichols. So I got a really good idea of the course that first day, and then played in another 2 practice rounds with AJ and Eric Oakley the next 2 days.
Wow. Okay. So you got to see the course. Was there anything that changed in terms of when you're out there, on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you get to the weekend, the wind's changing, the temperatures, those types of things. Sunny.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it never not sunny there? I mean, it's San
Diego,
Diego, right?
Yeah, it was sunny every single day but the first day. So, which was kind of funny because when I arrived there, it was kind of rainy and cloudy, and so like the first practice round, I was like, oh man, I'm soaked almost. Like all the long grass is holding the water. So doing the run-ups and just walking through the course, I was pretty wet. But then every other day was nice, like above 70 degrees, sunny and warm. The wind was a little cool off the ocean, which was actually nice at some points. But yeah, pretty consistently good weather for the whole week.
Well, and you just said consistently good. Let's talk about one of the many things that Ian Anderson had mentioned when I talked to him from over at Central Coast. He said your putting was really solid, and it's something that I think that you work on very hard. You mentioned that you how much putting practice you put in.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel like you do? Well, let me ask it this way, actually. Do you feel like your putting style is closest to any other pro, or do you feel like it's completely unique?
Ironically, I would say it's similar to both Simon and Eagles, like that kind of floaty spin putt from the mid area that just kind of goes straight into the basket. I definitely am a spin putter, and have kind of even modeled my putting form a little bit of theirs in the past. So just kind of trying to get that nice straight flight the entire time, and just floating it to the basket, I feel works best for me.
And what were your percentages for what was it, C1X or C1 and C2? Do you remember? You seem like you're on top of your stats and that type of stuff. Do you know what your percentages were?
For the tournament, I think I was above 80%. I'm not 100% sure, but I know the first round, I think I missed only 1 putt inside circle 1X, and then the other 2 rounds, which are a bit windier, I think I was still around 70%, which wasn't too bad, missing like 2 or 3 putts per round.
Yeah, I have it pulled up here. Your Circle 1X putts for the weekend appear to be 77%.
Okay.
And you were third in fairway hits at 92%, first in Circle 1 in regulation at 72%, first in birdie percentage. A lot of good stats.
Yeah. I was going to say second in Circle 2 in regulation, and you're scrambling. Oh, geez, 35th. No. So you go to this event. You have your Eric Oakleys and your Seppos and your Kevin Jones and AJ Risley, the local boy, all of that. That's a solid field. What does that mean to you when you not only compete with and hang with, but ultimately beat some of these guys? What does that mean to you in terms of your career and your esteem?
I mean, for me, it's a huge accomplishment to beat some of these really well-established pros. Like I was saying in an interview, I think they are like some of the top players in the world. I think both Seppo and Kevin are in the top 10 ranked players in the world. So beating them just feels really good and kind of validates how I feel about my game.
So, knowing that you're 19, knowing that you've only been playing 3 years, I feel like there's a little Happy Gilmore in you when you're like, yeah, and when you could say like, and you guys have been doing this your whole life. Like here you are, you're just in 3 years to it, and you're taking down some of our top professionals. That should be that should send a signal to the rest of our disc golf community. How does that feel?
Yeah, it feels really good. And I agree that I think that it should kind of tell people that I'm someone to keep an eye on as the tour goes on. And I'm hoping to keep performing at a high level and be on a few more coverages and videos in the future. So, yeah, I definitely hope that people keep an eye out for me.
Well, you can't stay under the radar or be a dark horse anymore if you then just go out and win. Talk about your driving again. High accolades. You have no shortage of the long throw. Talk either about your form or what it took for you to get where you are, and how much does that natural physique even play into it?
Yeah, I think that definitely helps a lot. Just utilizing my lankiness and my body type, I think, helps a lot. The technique that that we are taught to develop just, I think, benefits a longer reach back, a harder pull through, like more rotation within your body to use in your throw. Just helps if you can do it. Because I mean, there's guys like Garrett Gerthy who don't have quite a lanky frame, but they have perfected the disc golf throw, same as Paul Macbeth. And so if you have good form like that, I think a lanky frame might help with that. Just being able to use more leverage and being able to rip through the disc, I think, a bit faster and harder than those guys might be able to. But I think it's all technique as well.
Yeah, and how tall are you?
I'm 6'5".
So you are 1 inch shorter than Johnny, but you might throw 2.5 times as far.
What are you what are you maxing out at these days about on a regular golf throw? Are you putting it at 5? Can you, if you walk up to a 550-foot hole, you're pretty confident you can get there?
Can you hear us, Thomas?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
So if Johnny was asking if, I was gonna say, are you muted?
No,
That'd
I'm
be
not.
great.
I'm not muted.
No, I guess we were kind of asking if you're going out and ripping, full bore on a disc golf shot.
Mm-hmm.
At what distance are you? I'll word it this way: at what distance are you like, I don't think I can get it there? What distance is that on a good conditions on a golf shot? And you've got enough room and you have good form, or you're in a good position. At what distance are you like, that one might be out of my reach? What distance is that hole?
I would say about 550, because there was shots in the tournament where, like, there was a par 5 that was 1,000 feet, and whether my drive would be good off the tee, I would decide to go for eagle or not. And so like that was the kind of distance where, like, okay, I did get it a good ways off the tee, so I'm close enough that I feel comfortable taking the risk of throwing the eagle, but still maintaining a certain accuracy percentage.
Okay. Well, John, if you've got spare time, Johnny wants to know how to use.
I asked Scott Stokely many years ago, and he could not help me. But so what? A different type of question. What do you miss the most from Canada right now, and what do you enjoy the most about the United States?
Well, I mean, of course, most I miss about Canada is probably my family and friends, but like do you want something that's like Canadian that I miss,
or yeah, something not disc golf, we'll say.
Yeah, something that maybe you're like, wow, I can't get this while I'm here in California or in Kansas or whatever, whether it's something you can't get or look for or an experience you can't replicate here.
I mean, hate to rub it in, but the assurance of healthcare.
Hey,
so to make sure that I know if I hurt myself in Canada, I can just go to any hospital and get treated up with nothing to worry about. But here, health insurance and stuff, you gotta be cautious about.
Oh,
this is going to be an ignorant question, and I'll follow it up before and not let us get too political. But ignorant question: if you're injured here and you try and go anywhere, is that just a straight out of pocket expense, or do you have any kind of coverage or carryover? I genuinely have no idea how that works.
Yeah, so I'll get like health insurance from like a Canadian company, and I can use that to bring down to the States. So I don't think I'm using any of the U.S. insurance companies. I'm going through like a travel insurance branch somewhere in Canada.
Okay. That's good to know.
How does the another naive question since I haven't been there, but how does the currency work out? Does it work out in your favor or not?
No,
okay.
Definitely. I definitely want to try to get as much American currency as I can because the exchange rate's pretty good going back to Canada.
Okay.
Get those toonies and those loonies.
Yeah. Try to keep those in my pocket. And also another big part of like being a touring player, a lot of the events are PayPal, and when I get transferred to PayPal, it gets transferred to Canadian, and I lose that exchange rate. So I try to get American cash or check or whatever whenever I can.
Yeah, or I always think about when you have offshore accounts in other countries, and you just need somebody here to accept all of your.
I know. I've considered it.
Yeah,
AJ Risley put his PayPal in there, and then
exactly.
try to get the money from him.
There you go. You could do that.
Have to talk to him earlier tonight.
How about when we talk about the cultures and whatnot? What's something that when you're here, aside maybe from that healthcare, when you're here, you're like just like, huh? Or is there what's been a disbelief or maybe something that shocked you when you're here? Like you just can't believe we do X.
I wouldn't say there's really that much.
Okay.
I mean, I was kind of more shocked at how similar it was because, like, you hear stereotypes and stuff that America has, and then you come down and if I woke up in a normal normal city in the States, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you that it's in America or Canada.
Okay.
It's pretty similar overall.
So let's take that kind of another step and say, do you have any other international plans? Are you going to any other events over in Europe or anywhere else this year? Any plans of that nature?
Not this year. I think I'll just be sticking to Canada and the U.S. for this year. But hopefully, if I keep playing good and maybe get a bit of help, I can get to European Open or some of the other European events next year.
Okay. So speaking of help, Innova is in fact your sponsor. Well, how and when did that relationship, initiate, and what's that like for you, and what's your next step within the team?
So I've always admired Innova as a company, and so I was talking to Jonathan Poole, the team manager, throughout my career, and then I got the email from him in I believe December saying congratulations, you're on the 2019 team roster. So I was super happy about that, and so just excited to be on Team Innova and represent them.
Do you go, and it was the question that actually just came in though, do you get bumped up a team right away or bumped up on the roster or anything like that, as you pull in this A tier, or where are you at for levels?
Yeah, I was actually bumped up a few days ago, just after the A tier when I was on the sponsored team, and they bumped me up to crew, which was really awesome.
All
Just
right.
glad to get the call about that promotion.
And then discs just come flying in, like the phone call
Yeah,
comes in, and then
literally.
just literally
Literally.
discs are just like dropping from the sky all over you.
Yeah, because my plan was when we were driving up to San Francisco to go to the Innova factory and
Mhm.
pick up some discs anyways. I was like, oh sweet, I get even more now.
That makes perfect sense. Beautiful, fun place to be. It's like a have you been to East or West Coast factory ever before? No, probably not then.
I was at the East Coast factory very briefly before 2017 Worlds. I went there with Martin and Sandy.
Okay.
And so kind of got to see a little bit of it, but not really too much. And it was amazing to just see the humongous warehouses that they have here at Innova West.
Yeah, and quickly I'll say that it's no matter how much you love disc golf, going to a factory like Innova's West Coast or their East Coast and just seeing that many discs. Now, some people would be excited about it for days or weeks or months, and me as someone who's collected and dealt with thousands of discs, I'm like, okay, that is a lot of discs. It's still exciting, but it's quite an experience to have all those different options. And you've seen Greg Barsby ride around on a bike, picking out his discs, or people on skateboards picking out their discs. What will be your go-to, like when you're there and they give you a couple hours and they say, okay, you can go seek out discs. They're mainly in 100-count boxes in the warehouses there, and they're organized by usually plastic type, and then by.
I was there today.
Okay,
actually,
so what did you go
today.
to? Like, what'd you beeline to? And like, I'm gonna spend a half hour digging through this box. What box was that?
There's a lot of just good run like destroyers and T-Birds and Thunderbirds and everything pretty much I had in my bag. But I admit when I was when I told them what mold I was kind of interested in seeing, I think I stopped at 2 or 3 other ones on the way, just because I couldn't help myself seeing all the discs.
You just want to, touch every one of them. And speaking of discs, quickly, Ian said that he actually may have let a little gem go and handed it off to you. Is that does that ring a bell?
We're still here.
See ya.
We're here.
Yep, we still see you.
Hi.
I don't know if you don't see us. Maybe it fell asleep on him.
Yeah, tap your screen, Thomas. Maybe.
You might get that in a second.
Yes.
Yep. All right.
Are you
well,
still there, Terry?
Yeah, we
we're
still
still
see
here.
you. Now you froze, but a moment ago we saw everything. So I don't know if it fell asleep or something on you.
I'm going to mute his Skype for now until he recognizes it, until we're here, and I will.
All right. Well, we'll see if we can get him back in just a few moments.
Yeah.
I think back to a number of years ago. I don't know if it's 2012 or 2013 when I was at the West Coast. I've been in the East Coast factory quite a few times. You've been in there.
I've never been to the West Coast.
It's pretty
factory.
amazing to see so many discs and so many boxes. And you just, like a kid in the candy store, you just want to you find your favorite mold or two, and you're like, oh, there's like 600 of them here. Let me just thumb through these all, find the right weight, the right color, the right foil, and then grab them.
So we're all waiting here. What Ian apparently gave you a really sweet piece of plastic. What was that?
Yes. He gave me the Macbeth disc golf destroyer, the one that they did for the April Fools in 2016. So that was really cool to kind of get a piece of that, because I remember seeing it way back then, but I was kind of going through some of his cooler discs and mentioned it to him that this one's like feels really nice, and I know that a few other pros use it, and he was like, yeah man, take it, and I don't really need it, so see how it flies for you. And I was using it literally the same day.
So very sweet. Are you familiar with the disc, Johnny? What it was?
I am not, no.
A few years ago, like I think you just said, Thomas, 2016, Innova, as one of their April Fool's jokes, they usually are on top of those. They made it saying that Macbeth was either one of the main. Yeah, he bought out Innova.
They bought out Innova.
Yeah.
And so at the bottom of the destroyer, it said Macbeth, and they basically replaced the Innova logo with the Macbeth.
Okay, I vaguely
and then
remember
they had
that.
a very limited release of those discs. There we go.
Oh,
yeah, there it is.
Now I can see it.
So instead of Innova, it says Macbeth on the bottom. And there was a very limited release, and I scooped up a whole bunch of them, and they've become quite valuable. I know. You guys might be shocked here for those that listen.
Terry has them hoarded away somewhere. That's a shock.
It really is. Sorry, I wouldn't be that nice, Thomas. I wouldn't hand you one. So maybe I would.
You'd hand him one, depending on how many you had.
But very cool cool of Ian and Central Coast, and to hand one over to you, and then, like you said, for immediately to go in your bag and on the course. Even that much cooler.
That's too much disc for Ian anyway. We know that.
Yeah. Perfect. So the event. Let's for a few more of the specifics. We know that this is a Disc Golf Pro Tour test event that was being done out there. Alan Risley's always on the board and is super supportive of us here at Smashbox. AJ, of course, we all know AJ and the amazing things he's doing. Kind of break down San Diego and the experience of being over there.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. My first time in California, so just soaking up all that nice sunny weather and beautiful landscapes was really fun. We went down to the beach after, I believe, the first round, and that was really cool as well. So just the whole experience of San Diego was a lot of fun.
And then it looked like they had really good turnout. I'm sorry, it was 133 or 13 or something. There was a really good turnout, solid turnout. I think they had an amateur weekend last weekend. Does that sound right?
Same weekend, actually.
It was this weekend as well.
The pros started, there was an A tier for the pros, which started on Friday. And then on Saturday, Sunday, they had a B tier for all the other divisions.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, ultimately 72. On the pro side.
Yeah.
$1,400 payout. That's maybe exchange rate aside, that sounds like a pretty solid weekend, right?
Yeah, that's a great weekend.
Is that your
second highest payout ever?
Second highest. Okay, that's what I was about to ask. Yeah. What was your highest payout? That was
the other A tier win. River City Open was I think like $1,850.
Awesome.
Which was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and Alan's on the board saying 195 total players for the weekend, so clearly plenty of people. Also, I wanted to give a quick shout-out to you and a thanks. It was Waco last year. We were at the event, and that was, I think this year, too, also had some storms maybe. But last year, we were at the event for the Pro Tour doing the coverage, and we were going back and forth with it getting called and then rain and then lightning and all that stuff back and forth. And I remember being there with our cameraman, and I don't know how it came about. I think you probably just walked up and volunteered yourself. And next thing you know, you were holding an umbrella over primarily my cameraman and a little bit over me. And I just remember thinking, I'm not sure I know who this kid is, but that's really nice of him. So I want to, again, thank you for the gesture that day. And
yeah, of course.
It's kind of crazy how this whole disc golf family, how all of us just embrace one another, and week in and week out, whether you're helping hold an umbrella or you're winning an event or Ian's giving you a piece of plastic, like what is that like for you when you see this disc golf culture? I mean, Johnny and I are kind of old at this and been around forever, but here you are 19 years old, and some of the closest people you could become friends with might be twice your age within this sport. Like, what does that culture mean to you?
I mean, it's amazing. Like, it feels like another family. Like, the disc golf community and the friends that I've made in the sport are so meaningful and so true. Like, you can literally ask any disc golfer, I feel, a favor, and they're usually more than willing to do it and help out each other in any way possible. So that's really, really cool and important to me, and a big reason why I enjoy the sport so much.
Yeah, it's like you said, when you come here and you're touring, and we know our touring players usually need a little bit more assistance, whether it's a shower or a place to crash for 2 or 3 days, or everything in between, or an occasional meal. That community and that everyone embracing everyone is great. As we talk about your tour, What exactly are your plans? Are you in with a crew? Is it AJ? Is it like how are you going to kind of venture around for the next few weeks or months?
Yeah. So I mean, I just kind of meet up with a bunch of disc golf friends that I've made on tour. My main ride right now between place to place will be AJ Risley for I think pretty much the most of the West Coast swing, and meeting up with a few guys that I've been friends with for a long time. So like I'll probably meet up with Nate and Jerm and Chandler again as soon as I see them, and kind of regain some of that cool friendship and so yeah, but mainly traveling with AJ Risley, staying at a bunch of locals' houses, and yeah, really gonna look forward to doing that.
And then where do you see yourself? I know maybe or maybe not the fall's in question, but where do you see yourself kind of concluding your hardcore full-time touring for the year? Or is that still up for debate? Like September, October kind of thing?
For sure, I'm doing USUGC because last year I was in the same sort of situation where I had qualified for USUGC, but I unfortunately wasn't able to go because I had 3 midterms scheduled the same week. So I'm definitely going to get early and talk to my teachers saying, I'll do all the tests or I'll do whatever I need, but I need that week off.
It's not like they can't watch you, hopefully, on the results to find out that you're not lying or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
They're trying to get out of it.
Just again, as we step back into yesteryear for a moment, to think that we're at a spot in the sport where college goers are thinking ahead to where they want to be, talking about playing in a major, and potentially making arrangements with their professors. Like who would have thought 15, 20 years ago like that would be a real thing. And here we are, and Paige Bjork is making the tough decision to not go back to school right away last year, and then winning a world championships. I mean, that sounds like a good plan. You should do that.
Yeah, no. If I win worlds, I'm sorry, school, but you're definitely going to be on hold for a while.
Good plan. I can get behind that.
All right.
Normally, I'm all about these younger kids staying in school and getting that out of the way. But if you win worlds,
yeah, you got bigger things to do.
It'll be pretty hard to not pursue that further.
Yes.
Any other sponsors, supporters that you want to shout out or mention before we kind of wrap things up with you?
Yeah, definitely. I want to thank anybody who's supported me, like all my fans up in Canada and around the States as well. I want to, of course, thank my sponsor, Innova Discs. So they've been super helpful and supportive in these past couple months. So huge thanks to them, and just, yeah, anybody really that helps support me on tour, even just giving me encouragement really means a lot.
All right. Well, we love exclusives here. So if you wanted to send a not so subtle or secret message to a potential sponsor out there, who might that be? Is there any other company or product that you use frequently that would be like, yeah, that'd be real nice if they hooked me up? Is there anyone out there?
Yeah, definitely want to stick with the disc manufacturer, but Pound Disc Golf, if you're out there.
Okay, all right. He even gave the exclusive
for maybe a possible bag hookup.
Okay, he even gave the exclusive lean in on the mic. I like that. Exclusive. Pound Disc Golf, if you're listening. Okay, I love it. That's good to know, and I'm sure if they weren't already aware and you weren't on their radar after a solid performance this weekend, they certainly will be.
And if Pound wants to sponsor us, we're open to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, did you hear Johnny V won Advanced Masters this weekend? Like, seriously, Advanced Masters.
I mean, really, that's, yeah.
I'm just saying, his 6'6" frame's coming after you.
No, it's not.
Okay, it's not. All right, Thomas, any parting shots, final words before we do let you go? Anything else?
No, just thank you guys for having me on. I'm happy to be able to do this with you guys.
It's awesome. Right. Well, we really appreciate you coming on.
I do not think this will be our last conversation. We're certainly going to see you on more coverage coming up. And we wish you the best of luck. If there's anything we can ever do to help you out, just give us a holler. And congratulations on a solid weekend. Congratulations to Alan Risley and everyone over at the event. And thank you so much. We'll catch you out on the tour in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thanks very much.
All right, have a good night.
Thanks, Thomas.
See ya.
Okay, bye.
All right, as we said, Thomas Gilbert, your champion over at the Challenge at Goat Hill. It's truly scary to think, oh yeah, like I saw disc golf 3 years ago. I watched some YouTube, and now here I am winning. Like, and he didn't come off that way, but that's what he did.
That's
in
what he's
terms
doing.
of what he's performed, and that should wake a few people up that say, wow, this. So there is obviously a natural skill and talent that he has. So many people can go out and work for it and get really good, and he is working. But there has to be some just natural talent in there as well. So very, very exciting, and clearly someone to continue watching if you haven't been already. And to boot, he's
really.
They say talking a boot.
What are you about to say?
But I was gonna say, and to boot, obviously a super good stand-up guy, and it's great to see. Very, very cool. Now we just got to keep him away from that AJ kid.
Bad influence.
Bad
influence.
I tell you.
Continuing on with the Goat Hill event, I just want to give a shout out to Jennifer Allen for winning the Open Women division. She dominated that division. I believe she won by 39 strokes over Natalie Brown. She opened up with a 999 rated round, followed it up with a 968, and coasted in with a 967 to win $325 in the 5-woman field.
Yeah, and even more so, I think just impressive of the 39-stroke margin is clearly, clearly playing well above her rating. 52 points above her rating, and then 20-some points and 20-some points. So certainly a solid performance, regardless of the field size. It was great out there. Now, she may or may not make a good argument back for the the question of, well, how much does length and distance help out on that course, being the world record holder on the women's side. But heck, if you got it, use it. And this was one weekend where it certainly played to her advantage, and glad she could go out there and take care of business, so to speak. So congrats to Jen. And again, I'll say it. We really appreciate Alan Risley as a huge SmashBox TV supporter. He has been for many, many years, all the way from day one. And so seeing such a great, well-run, successful event. And Alan runs a ton of events. I know they run a lot of money, or they raise a lot of money through the Ice Bowl format, and just do so many good things out there in the community. So hats off to you, Alan. Nice work.
He's got an okay kid, too.
Yeah, I mean, AJ's sister's really nice.
She is.
Who I think just had a birthday a couple of weeks ago as well. AJ was rushing back to be able to celebrate his birthday, or her birthday, with her. So, and we're going to move through a few quick tidbits, some news and some notes that I guess is out there in the, the social media world.
Yeah,
Johnny,
tell me
do you
about
have
it.
anything?
Okay. No, go ahead, bring
so
it
a few
up.
notes that I just had. Earlier we mentioned about the team captainships. We were doing that during a down moment. That is going on in terms of voting for those. So go out and do that if you're so inclined.
Vote for Yuli.
Or Nate Sexton.
No, you'll vote for Yuli.
Or Avery Jenkins.
No, vote for Yuli.
Yuli is the most regular on our podcast.
That's why I'm saying it. I love those other guys. But, I mean, if they were regulars on our podcast, I might throw my weight behind them, but Yuli comes on all the time. So, Avery, Mr. Sexton, if you would like our support, maybe you can get Terry's support if you come on our podcast more often.
And, of course, that we would love
We love them all, but...
Yes. Well, I will quickly touch on... this is a little bit more, philosophical, but one question I saw that ran around, I feel like it was brought up in one area and then was carried over to another area of social media. And I don't think we've ever really discussed it, but how you played this last weekend, so I'll set up a scenario. You played this last weekend. You're taking the scores.
As I did for all but 8 holes of the entire event.
63, yep. So you're taking the scores. That's clearly how you get into the lead. With
62 holes.
Yeah.
61 technically.
61. Oh, so if you were only all but 8, I would have thought you would have lost by 8. But if you no. So anyway, you're taking the scores, and the scorecard is in your cart or golf bag.
Yep.
How do you feel about someone, without asking or making any form of question of it whatsoever, just going and grabbing and grabbing the scorecard?
Depends where the scorecard is.
Okay.
Whenever I get the scorecard, I always feel more comfortable scoring for the group.
Yeah, your 3 wins prove that.
That's right. No, and I have for as long as we've played. I think it's something I actually picked up from you more than likely. Once I get the card, it's just, I know it's going to be done. It's going to be done regular. It's kind of a routine to get into, and I just do it. And one of the things I always say after about 3 or 4 holes, because it's normally when you pass on the card, I put it in my side pocket of my ancient bag, and I tell everybody, hey, guys, just so you know, if you want to keep score, please just ask. Otherwise, I'll probably keep it. The scorecard is right here on the side. If you ever want it, just go ahead and grab it.
Okay.
So that's the method I take. Now, if I didn't say that and somebody wanted to see it, and they could see the scorecard like sticking out of my bag, I have no problem with them going in and just grabbing it.
Okay.
The scorecard belongs to the group.
Yep.
Now, and I think that it should be accessible for every player. Now, if you had it in a bag, maybe it was zipped up.
Sure.
Because maybe you weren't sure about the weather or whatnot. I would probably prefer maybe, and I would myself ask whoever is keeping score, hey, may I see the scorecard to take a look at it. Now, if it was in their pocket, I might just go in their pocket.
Yeah, no questions asked that time.
It's weird, but
you're just like, oh, no, you're like, no, my scorecard's in the right pocket. And you're like, I know, that's why I'm in your left. I know you said that.
Whatever.
But, okay, fair enough. I think that's a really good point in that as to where it is and if it's per se even visible to the group and whether you announce it ahead of time or not. I would say that I feel most comfortable, even if it is sticking out, and there's a million different bags out there and carts now, but even if it is sticking out and 100% visible, I would make some kind of either audible or visual notion to the person to make them aware or let them know, like, oh, hey, can I, like, I would make some kind of motion to say, can I look at it? And not because I don't feel like it's not mine to look at, but because you're about to go and touch or interact with someone else's property in order to do so. And that would be my initial take. I completely agree with you, and I think there's plenty of people that agree that the scorecard is in fact, really just a product of it's everyone's property, so to speak. However, where and how you store it, I think should certainly I think no matter what, you should always be getting that form of permission from the person that is then retaining or holding on to that scorecard.
Because ultimately, it's also their responsibility at some point. So if I'm keeping score, and let's just play pretend you're my card, and you say, hey, you grab the scorecard, maybe you forget to give it back, maybe whatever. So letting somebody else know that you're going to handle the scorecard is probably in the best interest of the group. But overall, like I said, for me personally, I just like to keep score, and I tell everybody, this is where it is. Please go ahead and have it. And then on top of that, there are very, very rarely will you get a complaint in your group. Most people want to keep the scorecard out of their hands for some crazy superstitious reason, or just because they don't like scoring. Maybe it throws them out of their groove. They don't want to see everybody else's scores, or they don't want to see their own scorecard. Me personally, it doesn't bother me at all, and I also always keep a copy of my own score on UDisc, regardless of what happens. For the first and second round, I started with the scorecard, and so I kept it. The final round, I was not on the lead card, or I was on the lead card, but I was not on the lead top of the card, so they went through the first 2 people, and then I was the third on the card, and I just kept it after that. So, and I like it. personally. I like to keep score.
Yeah, and everyone has, a different, like you're saying, a different opinion. I think if somebody wants to see the scores or know what the scores are, it is absolutely their right at any time during the round. I do think there is just a true courtesy to make sure that if you're going to get the scorecard or possess the scorecard at any moment, make sure you have permission. It may be yours to look at, but you may need to go into somebody else's bag to get it.
Was there a discussion about this?
Yeah, it sounds like there was. I think there's been multiple discussions about it, and I'm kind of just borrowing the topic to bring it here.
Okay.
And I don't want to say just make it our own, but I think it's something that is worth discussing because everyone does handle it a little differently. And I think back to, and I know we did talk about it at one point, that at the Rumble in 2018, which I appreciate the huge shout out and plug there from Thomas a moment ago. When I covered the Rumble last year, I think he was just setting me up for it. I appreciate it. At the Rumble, I believe it was Joel Freeman was shooting pretty hot from the second card. He, during a backup, found himself near the lead card. I don't even know if it was a backup, actually, but at one point he was up near the lead card, which I was filming. He, at one point, grabbed the scorecard out of someone's bag and looked at it, which, again, he's on the chase card.
That's a whole different situation.
Well, it is different in the sense that he's not physically on that card. I get it, but
that's 100% different.
Also, the fact that he had, just gone in to see. He didn't ask. He did not say, "Hey guys, can I see your card?" Or, "Hey, leader or person X, can I go into your bag?" He had just, if I recall correctly, and I'm almost positive I am, and Joel can correct me, but he had just grabbed it. And there was a discussion on the lead card as he walked away among the lead card, and everyone had a very varying opinion as to what they just thought of what had happened. And so
I don't think personally, as the chase card, I don't think you have any right to see the lead card scorecard. You can ask for it.
Sure.
It's like, hey, can I see your scorecard? And at that point, if I'm keeping score, more than likely I show it to them. I'm like, okay, sure, here, take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it, should I ask the rest of my group?
Maybe.
Does it matter? And now in these day and age, you have UDisc, you don't really need that. But many of these smaller events don't have UDisc. These B tiers and these A tiers might not have UDisc or live scoring. I definitely wouldn't just go out of my way to grab it out of somebody's bag. I would 100% always ask, but can the lead card just say no?
Yeah, that's also a great question, and certainly not where I was necessarily trying to take this conversation, but it is a great question. And obviously at our bigger events, like you mentioned, whether it's PDGA or Matrix or our friends over at UDisc, that has become more and more common that it's being, that it is accessible on a phone anyway. However, when it's not, it asks a lot of other questions. And as someone on the board just said, they were frustrated that, that someone with 4 holes left to play during an event last year didn't let them see the scorecard. Yeah, if you're on the card and you're competing on that card, that scorecard I feel like is 100% just that. It is the group scorecard, and if anyone in the group wants to see the scorecard at any moment, I am good with that. Now, we all know it can get a little annoying if
someone is constantly
wants to see it. You may be the let's just say there's 4 people on the card. You've all done it for either 4 or 5 holes. You're in the final 4 holes of the tournament, and there's 4 holes left, 3 holes left, and 2 holes left. Somebody else on the card, is constantly wanting to count and recount the scorecard. I could see getting annoyed by that, but at the same time, I mean, they have the right to see it, in my opinion. So, but I think the takeaway here is kind of like a purse, kind of like a wallet. If you're going to someone else's bag or going into their property, I feel like it is always polite to at least establish some kind of agreement about, and most people are going to be like, yeah, it's always right here in this pocket. It's always right there. Like you said, go ahead and grab it whenever you want. Some people may tuck it somewhere else, and they may or may not want you taking it upon yourself to dig into that position or to find that spot in a bag or a cart. So I guess that's the way to ultimately walk away from all this. And
it's not quite a pro tip, but maybe it's pro etiquette.
Yeah. I would take it a step further, as you've already said, whether it's through an electronic version or a paper copy. It's always great, I think, to keep score. It may not be required, at that particular event, but have a scorecard and keep score yourself for either your round or your entire group's round.
Yeah,
just keep track of one personally. It would never hurt to have that double check in the first place.
Our buddy Steve Held almost always keeps track of the entire card on his app, whatever app he uses, or at least he used to. I don't know if he still does. And I thought about it this weekend with using UDisc the entire weekend. I really just want to keep it for my own personal stats and just so I know. But it crossed my mind whether I'm like, well, should I do it for everybody? And then ultimately I decided I was just going to do it for myself, because I was keeping the detailed scores for all the stats. And I didn't look into whether you could do that for just one person. I'm sure you probably can, and just put scores in for everybody else. But it's it's a funny etiquette question.
Yeah, so that's maybe one of the takeaways. There was an interesting comment also just made on the board that had said, "Don't add up my scores." And I'll say this.
Oh, I disagree.
Well, I guess it depends. Do you say don't add up or don't write down? And here's what I will say. It is far easier for a mistake to be made. Let's say I'm adding up your score, and I'm going through it, and I'm adding it all up because I have the pencil and the scorecard at the end of the round, and I read it, and I'm like, oh, yeah, you got a 57, and I write in 57. Whatever, do the other 3 scores on the card. I think once that 57 is physically seen, I feel like it's much easier for someone to gloss over it and or make a mistake. And if it's blank, put the responsibility on the actual person that shot the round to write in their score, because you feel terrible when you write in a 57, the whole card says, yep, checked them all, those all look good, and then you go turn it in and it was actually a 56, which I know the person that
of course
that ultimately shot the score is responsible for it, but why be responsible for even potentially writing in someone else's incorrect score at all? Make them responsible to write in their own score.
Total opposite of what I do.
Yeah, usually that's because you cheat.
No, I do not cheat.
You won 3 tournaments. You obviously
are. I might bag. I don't cheat. After the round, I take the final score, and I did the same thing all 3 rounds. I said, all right, and everybody's usually sitting around, and I start at the top person, and I say, okay, let's go through your scorecard. I'm going to add it up. Blah, 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 blah. You got a 62, and I'll write 62. I'll do all of them, and I'll usually say it out loud as I go, like, +1, -1, +2, -1, whatever, and I'll go through it. And then, as always, I say the exact same thing almost every time. I hand it to the person next to me. I say, please double check these. I'm not a mathematician. And please check your scores. And then it gets passed around, which is funny because the final round, the leader who went into the round had shot in a poor round. He had shot a 64. He was looking at it, and the scorecard was kind of funny because it was 20 holes, and so it folded over. So there's some on the front, some on the back. He added up, and he looked at me and goes, I think it's wrong. And he erases it, and he puts 65. I'm like, oh, sorry about that. Okay, cool.
Cheater.
He adds it up again, and he goes, wait a minute. No, I think it's 64. And I'm like, 64 is what I put. And he changes to 64, and he adds it up again. He's like, well, I'm getting another answer. So he just handed it to the next person. He's like, please double check that. And it turned out to be a 64, thankfully, what I had originally written. But I could understand not writing in somebody's score. I understand
just
that.
For that reason alone.
It just so happens, I have a pencil handy. I'm there. Again, I'm one of those people. It's like, I trust my math. Very rarely am I wrong, but you always hand it. Always make sure to everybody touches that scorecard before it gets turned in.
Absolutely. It's ultimately you are responsible for the scorecard that gets turned in or the score that gets turned in, no matter how you cut it. I just like the idea of handing it over to you, and then when you add it up, and then you say, oh, 64, and I say, oh, yep, that's what I got, and then I watch them write that in. You cannot then accidentally write in an incorrect score for them. I'm a big fan of that. But
it makes sense.
Or use UDisc, as everyone's yelling on the board. We know Daniel, we know Matt, we know Josh. You guys got the greatest product ever.
I did use UDisc. Like I said, I was all over it. I've got all the stats on my phone. I can pull them up at any point now. I can look at the previous. scores on that particular course. I had to use a custom scorecard because one of our holes got flooded out. So instead of having a 21-hole course, I had to create a 20-hole course, and it was great. In fact, I was messing around and I found out, I was like, oh, look, rather than you can rename numbers. Like instead of I started on technically what was known as TI, hole TI. There's an east and a west course. So, and then there's a mid loop. So there's like W1 through 7, M1 through 8, E1 like 6 through 9, and then there was some T score. And I literally looked at it and I said, I don't know where I'm going. I have no clue. I've played this course 15 times in my life, once a year. So I'm sorry, so probably 30 times, and I don't know where TJ is. And the tournament director Randy goes, "It's that hole right there," and it was the ghost hole that we had to get rid of because.
Don't even get me started on ghost holes.
But this was actually understandable due to weather conditions flooding out a particular hole that they could not accommodate a 21st hole, so it went down to 20. They weren't sure if the weather or the water was going to recede enough, and it did not. So what else do you got there, Terry Barry?
That's about it. That's about it for actual show fodder and conversation. Maybe some random after show talk that I've got for you guys about how I would never trust my life. You think like adding up your scorecard is one thing. We can talk about how nobody can follow simple enough directions that I posted on Facebook yesterday. That's another
after
thing.
Show.
Exactly. So I don't have anything else unless you do here for the regular show.
I don't believe I do. I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, that's what you think.
In the after show, we'll go through my round.
No, we
hole by
will
hole.
not. I am done talking about your
You talk about all the putts and every drive and the tree hits and the re-tee I had to do.
Still no. When that event sponsors our show, then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
All right, we're going to close things out. We're going to head into the after show where you can join us. We'll talk about a lot of random things that may or may not involve disc golf. We'll see what else is going on in social media and the rest of the world. And we hope you can join us. So for Johnny V, our amateur Masters champion, third time this year.
No, second time this year.
Second time this year,
Once
third
last year.
time in the last 2 years. Along with Thomas Gilbert, our A-tier MPO champion out at the challenge at Goat Hill, along with Dynamite Dana Vici and his crooked build hat. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. We'll see you guys in the after show when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SmashBox TV podcast 246 After Show.
Speaking of after show, for the Patreon supporters of SmashBox TV at the clothing level, which is $10 a month or more, that order has been made through Miles at Paragon, and he has all the addresses. I have paid the bill, so now it is Miles will be sending out your t-shirts after they get printed up, I believe, and you should see those, I would assume, in a couple weeks, 2 weeks maybe, after.
Yep. I would be willing to guess he's got pretty quick turnaround over there, so I would assume, what day is it? Tuesday. We'll probably see them early next week, get printed, and then maybe shipped out by the end of next week or something like that. So thank you to, of course, all of those amazing Patreon subscribers. Well, we thank all of our Patreon subscribers, but our big high baller rollers.
Yep.
We love you guys even more.
And the shirt, for those of you that don't know, it says after show with a little microphone, and it says Patreon exclusive. So this particular shirt will not be sold anywhere else. This is only going to be for patrons forever and ever. The next one we order, maybe we'll order a few extras and sell. But I wanted the very first shirt that we ever gave out for this level to be exclusive for our Patreon supporters.
Very, very cool. So thank you guys for all of that. Thank you to Miles over at Paragon, and thank you to Tim for the assist on that. Also, I finally have been getting a little bit more caught up. I think I packaged up 6 or 7 or 8-ish, somewhere between 6 and 8 sets of Patreon giveaways that we have. Some are shirts. There's a disc or two. There's a disc member box or two. So all those, I had to exchange back and forth with a few of the people that I was actually waiting on addresses for as well. I feel like I got pretty far on that. Those got all printed out. For many of you, I actually, if you've won something, I got as far as actually printing out the label and then sending you the tracking. So as I said in the email, the tough part is done of getting that put out, of getting that all ready to go. Now the easy part is just slapping the label on and having that ship out tomorrow. In a little bit different kind of sort of note in terms of merchandise and things, I had this crazy idea, and it's not so crazy in terms of like, the whole world has done it now and in disc golf, but with all of the extra amazing goodies and things that I've accumulated throughout the last 20 years, I was thinking about doing a full-blown run of mystery boxes.
Whoa.
And I would love some of your feedback as to doing that. Some of you have seen, Simon Lazat, who had visited my storage, which, he was in the first 2 feet, and there's another 28 feet behind that. But, I just want to put some items together. They'll be all relatively current. I'm not going to go back and I'm not going to,
Is it 2003 USDGC Rock?
Well, no, everybody would like that.
I know, that's what I'm saying. You're not going to be doing that.
No, nor on the flip side of that, am I going to give you, a test Gateway Diablo from 2003 either, or whatever that disc was. Something like that. That's just, totally out of the random. I do have 1 or 2 apparel items that will be 100% meant as a bonus item because they are relatively retro or old school, but I have a lot of them. And so I'm not even counting that in the value of the mystery box when I do put them out. I would feel really good about them going out to disc golfers. And if you don't like it, it'd be a good CTP prize or great for Goodwill. But they need to get out of my storage.
1998 Amworld's hat that's got like the flat bill and the big puffy part.
You might not be far off. All right,
I know I'm not. I've seen the stuff you collect. I know this.
So anyway, if you guys are interested, let me know. I will be making probably a post on Facebook. I would like to assemble them kind of all at once. And I'm thinking about 2 different price points, like maybe a $65 and a $110 price point. Obviously, that'll reflect, the value there. It'll be way more than those values, but that's the amount that I would look at. And I may even throw in a pair of Keen shoes to one of the lucky recipients. So that's something that's been I've been throwing around. I would love for so many of these great items to actually get into people's hands, because I keep holding on to them thinking, oh yeah, this would be great, but I don't run events like I used to. I don't run leagues like I used to, but I have so many items that I know disc golfers would actually like and appreciate. So look for mystery box sale from me, and put together with love. My kids will help. They're excited. No kids' toys though. Maybe I'll throw a puzzle or 2 in there. No, maybe not.
It's just a puzzle. Like it's
not a single piece.
It's a frozen puzzle.
Exactly. Yes. There's a lot of options there.
Wow. Yeah, that's exciting stuff there, Terry Miller.
Well, just saying, there's a lot of good stuff in there.
I know there is.
How many discs? That's a great question, and I was thinking that I would guarantee at least 2 discs will be in there. There could be 3 or 4 or 5, but every single pack would include at least 2 discs. Is kind of the minimum that I started with, and then from there I would add in other. Think of disc golf accessories and other things that you might find valuable or useful that could be thrown in there in addition to discs, and that's kind of where I'm at.
I think what would be kind of cool is if you did randomly maybe find a semi-valuable disc.
Sure.
Like as a prize, like, oh hey, here's a signed Macbeth Destroyer, or hey, here's a first run Stratus, or something crazy that you might have a few of that you wouldn't feel too bad parting with one, something along those lines, and just be like, hey, we're putting it in there and gonna seal it up, and it is where it is.
Exactly. I was exactly along those lines, and that's kind of what I was thinking about with the Keen. Like, somebody is going to get really blown away by the fact that they're going to get a regular package, so to speak, of goodies, and then have a free Keen shoe card that's good for literally any pair of Keens, that can even go in excess of $160, $180, $200 on their site. I would throw those one of those into one of the more expensive packs as well. So Zuka carts, I've got Zuka carts, I've got grip bags, I've got all sorts of crazy stuff. But Andy says every box has an Innova magnet or bottle opener mini from 2009. I probably could. I probably have a stash of those, which are awesome, by the way. I don't know how much you're getting, but those were really awesome.
They actually were pretty cool.
Yeah, that they stick right to your fridge. They had a bottle opener, but it was mini sized. Yeah, those were pretty cool. Anyway, and Jesse says a Marlboro Red from Ken Klein. No, but in digging around a few weeks ago, I found Marlboro sent out it was a magazine. It wasn't just their catalog of things. It was an actual magazine, and that also, of course, advertised their stuff. But there was a really great write-up in there about Barry Schultz and about the sport of disc golf. In fact, I took pictures of it. I don't have it handy right now. I took pictures of it. It was one of the best articles and one of the glossiest, most professional-looking articles we've ever had in a publication at that time. And it was in a Marlboro quarterly, I want to say newsletter, but it was like a quarterly magazine of sorts. And I don't know if anyone else remembers that out there, but I have a copy of that somewhere in the stashes, and I just found that not too long ago as well. Very cool write-up. So we're going to quickly rewind. Last week, you weren't here. You were in Florida. Doing some work with your actual 9 to 5.
With my 9 to 5 company.
9 to 5 company.
We acquired a company down in Crestview, Florida, which is just north of Destin.
Yep.
So I flew in there Tuesday afternoon, and then at about 6 o'clock when the employees left, I sat around most of the night and converted all their systems to our systems, migrated their computers to put our software on them, changed their domain and all this other stuff that I need to do. I did open up my laptop and throw the broadcast that you did on. I did not get a chance, unfortunately, because you didn't record it as a WAV file or an MP3, I didn't get a chance to pull that file off of YouTube, extract just the audio, and then upload it as a separate podcast. So if you're hearing this and you're like, I didn't see one of these last week, I probably won't. Let's be real.
Ouch. That hurts, folks.
Go check out
those Audible listeners.
Go check out YouTube. I love our Audible listeners. But no, I just, at this point now, it's already been a week, and things got very busy over the weekend with me actually golfing. And
yeah, I know, man.
Being busy.
So you travel. So let's recap. You travel to Florida, and then you go away to play golf for a week. And it sounds like you're pretty busy. Sounds like a rough life.
It was not that rough. Let me tell you. This weekend, a bunch of us golfers, including Tom McManus, who just helped, and a bunch of our good friends, rented an Airbnb about 20 minutes outside the course, where we just kind of hung out afterwards and sat and watched the Bucks game, watched some Brewers games. It was a good time. It's something we haven't been able to participate in quite a while, things like that, because of all the extra media stuff we do. So I was very just hands off, other than I think a conference call or two I had to take, one with you and then one with somebody for work. But other than that, it was really relaxing, to say the least. My wife wouldn't find it so, but as I abandoned her. But I think we're done with that now.
You're done with your wife? Did she know yet?
No, I don't think she'd let me go. That's sad.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to move into a quick conversation that I also saw on social media. It has been announced, and I like that he's getting out ahead of it, so it's not like a big shock later. In the last week or so, I saw Nate Heinold, who runs, of course, the Ledgestone Insurance Open, but also is the tournament director, as he sits on the board of the PDGA, but is also the tournament director for Pro Worlds. He had put it out there. It's out there on Disc Golf Scene, and it's available, that there's going to be a parking fee this year if you're coming to spectate the Pro Worlds. And I want to say, without pulling it up directly, I want to say it's an option of $10 a day if you want to pay for just that, a daily pass. And this is for a car of people, or a single car.
Not per person.
Not per person.
Car.
$10 per car. Or there is an option at a $35 level that I believe gets you a disc and a shirt at $35. That is good for the entire week for $35. So you
at
get
all the locations?
At all of the venues for the World Championships.
Correct.
That includes all of the 3 courses that are used, and then if there's any kind of parking fee associated with any other venue or event venue, and I don't think there would be any outside of those 3, it would cover that as well. And then there's also an $85 VIP parking permit that, of course, covers you for parking for the entire week, and it gets you, I believe it said 4 discs. I'm not sure if it's and a shirt, but at least 4 Worlds discs in addition to the parking for $85. So that gives you everything, and that's VIP. Now, there were some people that really, really have a problem with that and have said, that's not going to grow the sport. That's bad. We need every spectator we can get. You're putting up a barrier to that. And I vehemently disagreed with that, although I have no dog in this fight. Nate doesn't pay me anything.
You are putting up a barrier, but it's a value-based barrier that I think adds I would say a touch of legitimacy to our sport.
Exactly, and that was exactly one of the angles that I took at it. Again, I don't get any commission on World's parking passes that are sold this year, but I do like the fact that it's out there and discussed and known about already. I said exactly that rather than it feeling like, oh my gosh, how are spectators ever going to get out there, and they're going to be so turned away because there's a parking fee, I think the exact opposite. I mean, think about every other professional sporting event that you go to, especially if you talk about a playoff scenario or a World Championships title on the line, or titles or series, whatever it might be. You're going to pay for parking at every single one of those, and it's going to be for a single day or a single event. Probably you're paying anywhere between $10 and $100, depending on the venue. I know if you go to Miller Park, just on the road from us, for a regular season game, what's the cheapest parking that you think you can get into Miller Park with?
I think the absolute cheapest,
like way back.
I think there are some weekends that they do $10, but otherwise,
maybe.
I believe it's normally like 15 to 20.
Yeah, and of course, if you want to get closer, you're talking.
Oh yeah, there's higher value ones.
All the way up. So I feel like this adds somewhat of a legitimacy to us. Now, of course, I don't want to see $9 beers at the courses. I don't want to see $7 hot dogs. I don't want to see things get to that level where I feel like, and it's subjective, but I feel like some of the those things at the venues are absurd. A bag of popcorn that's $7 or whatever. I don't want to see all that type of stuff follow suit. But when you're talking about $35 for a week-long pass, and you're getting a disc, and you're getting a shirt, as I said online, I'd love for you to, next time you pull up to Miller Park, hand the person $40 for that parking, and then say, "Oh, do I get a shirt with this from a Milwaukee Brewers shirt?" Like, they would laugh at you because they're gonna sell you a Milwaukee Brewers shirt inside for $45 by itself for a freaking T-shirt.
Yeah.
So
that's what they do.
I think it also will encourage carpooling, which I don't know who could argue with that concept. It will encourage carpooling, and I think it'll add a little bit more organization to the parking situation, because that probably means someone is going to be at a gate, someone is going to be instructing you where to park, and somebody's going to want to try and do it with some efficiency. I don't know if you guys have ever been to some events where parking is just on your own and it's somewhat limited, and you have just morons parking wherever the hell they want in whatever direction they want, taking up as much room as they want. I think this is a good way to try to avoid some of those situations. So it's not a terrible thing, people. You're talking about a disc and a shirt for $35. If you want, take the 4 people that are probably in your car, or if you're disc golfers, take the 9 people you crammed in there. Go play a round of golf for that disc or that shirt then, and make something fun out of it on top of it. But we're talking about a very, very moderate amount. I'm going to work with Nate, and I personally would like to sponsor 1 parking pass just to help ease the pain at some point. So look for that between here and Worlds.
I think I'm going to buy all the parking spots, get all the discs, and then resell them.
There you go. I like that.
For the same amount, without the prizes. No, I'm not marking it up. I'm just not giving you the disc.
Oh,
those
man,
are all my spots. Would you like a close one? And
now you're talking.
I'll put a roller skate in one. I'll put a skateboard in another. My bike will go in one. Actually, I won't do that because I'll be here probably doing the broadcast. But
at any rate, I wanted to add another perspective, and I know it sounds like I'm almost super defensive only on the World's behalf. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to explain. I think the value is there. The fact that they're offering to give you that much stuff, whether it's at the $35 or the $85 price. And I also think, like, if you do just want to come for the final day and you can carpool, you're telling me $10 is enough for you not to want to see our world champions crowned? Like, I struggle with that, because I think about so many of our players that will spend $300 on a Zuka cart. They'll spend $400 on a pound or a grip bag. They'll go to the liquor store, the gas station, or the beer depot, and they'll only get craft beer in bottles at $14 for a 6-pack. They'll spend $40 on a brand new Big Germ Thunderbird, and then you say, "I need $10 so we can park efficiently here while world champions are crowned." And, oh no, hold my craft beer. I can't afford that. All right. If I sound a little jerkish about it, it's because I don't understand it. So
neither do I.
I'll sponsor one parking permit to be given away by the disc golf guy later in the year.
But what we're not going to give away is a parking permit for our Patreon supporters.
That would be a great idea. But we won't tonight.
We won't. No, not tonight. Patreon supporters, as everybody knows, every week we give away a prize to one of our wonderful supporters at SmashBoxxTV. So it's patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV, Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can be entered into our weekly prize drawing. Terry, what are we giving away this week?
Oh, yeah. We busted them out. I've got some more discs in my stash. I think I've got a sweet-looking Tear Bear disc, actually.
Oh, a Tear Bear disc. Nice. Next week, we'll be giving away a disc member box, which is the $25 a month service, where you get usually about $50 worth of goods and services. So if you are interested in that, remember, you can go to patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV and sign up for that. But tonight is a Tear Bear disc. We have 214 users in our list.
All right, real quick before you do that, I also wanted to just button up the last piece. Players, staff, and volunteers all are parking for free. So just to make sure that's clear for everyone, I know that was actually asked in among the thread I participated.
Oh, okay.
The players, the staff, and the volunteers that are accredited volunteers are all parking for free at the World. So just thought I'd make sure to throw that in there.
All right.
All right, so
what number should we generate? How many times should I click that generate button?
Well, I mean, it's episode 246. So
246.
the average of 2, 4, and 6 is 4.
All right.
So, is that the average?
That works.
It's the median and the mean. Isn't that amazing how that works?
Something like
I'm
that.
throwing out now. I haven't used those words in 25 years.
All right. So I'm going to generate 4 numbers. So the first number is 94. The second number is 157. The third number is 199. The fourth number is 132.
I don't think they're the median and the mean.
I don't know, but I was trying to rattle numbers up and you weren't talking. Number 132 is Jonathan Hernandez.
Yeah, Jonathan.
Jonathan Hernandez, congratulations. You are tonight's Patreon.com winner. So thank you very much for being a Patreon supporter. As always, we truly appreciate everybody's support.
Jonathan, we appreciate it. So Johnny is going to send maybe myself and Jonathan an email just so we can verify your address. And I do want to stress this. If perchance you win, and usually if you're hearing it, you're super excited and you're on top of it. But if you do win and Johnny or I send you an email, usually within a day or two of the show, please, if you could, just make sure you reply back to both or at least wherever the email is coming from to let us know that we have your correct address. There's been a number of times where we had one that was possibly on file or we kind of took a guess and it ended up being, an address that was a month or a week or a year old. So we'd love to double check the address so that we can make sure whatever it is that you won will get back out to you. Sound like a plan? Oh, he's emailing. Should I give out the email address right now?
You probably shouldn't.
Yes, I'm just kidding.
I know people want.
All right, I teased it out there last week, and I'm going to tease it out there again because we're not quite ready to make a few announcements, but I am excited about a couple places that we're going to see some additional post-production, and I think my hint was one place old and one place new, one place international, maybe even 2. I didn't try and rhyme that, but some exciting stuff and announcements in the next couple of weeks as I'm working with a few of the events. This weekend, speaking of, San Francisco. There's, of course, a little bit of chatter as the San Francisco Open is driven by Innova, but has a different presenting sponsor. Johnny, did you see any of that conversation?
Yes, the sponsor is being California and being legal. It is a
CBD,
THC type business. I know they are a very large, particular business when it comes to that. And you'll have to forgive me because I don't know a lot about the industry in general. You might not even be able to find it on that particular page. I don't know if
it is okay. So it is the Disc Golf Pro Tour Absolute Extracts presents the San Francisco Open, driven by Innova at Glen Eagles Disc Golf Course
with live coverage sponsored by MVP.
Yes, live coverage this weekend brought to you by MVP. There was a little bit of a change-up that's actually relatively new. I believe there was even an article released today, or at least a notification released, that people are going to have the option, or are they going to be only able to? Is it going to be an option, or is it going to be an either-or thing that they can watch on YouTube? Thanks to MVP and DGP.TV.
Correct.
It would be available there as well.
Normally, the method is not to put it on YouTube recently, working with, trying to get these third-party ads brought in and sold and stuff like that. But thanks to the generosity of MVP, they kicked in some extra cash and asked for it to be on YouTube, I believe. I think that's kind of the general sponsorship requirement. So, shout out to MVP for stepping up like that. And we are going to put this week's event on YouTube, as well as the Disc Golf Roku channel, as well as, I believe, even, I don't know if it's ready or not, but I had heard that there was going to be an Apple TV channel and an Android channel that should be ready soon, if not this week, then probably for the next event. So ultimately, it will be on YouTube this week. I will be pushing it out to multiple destinations.
All right. So you will have that option for those that love using it on YouTube, having that instant chat board. Some people have said, I'm totally fine with not being bothered or distracted by the chat board. So they love using the DGP.TV. So that will be an option as well. But because of the additional support that has come in from MVP, that's how the Pro Tour was also able to utilize the YouTube option for this weekend. So big shout out to MVP for helping provide some options for the Pro Tour and for, of course, all of the viewers. From what I've gathered, don't hold me to this, but from what I have gathered for the weekend, I will not personally be present or involved, but I have gathered that Parsave Productions, it will in fact be doing the MPO1 post-production coverage along with the FPO1 post-production coverage. And then CCDG, Ian and crew that I spoke with today said that they will be over there for the MPO2 coverage. So that's how we are seeing that unfold. And then, of course, SmashBoxx, the backbone to the live coverage for the weekend. Nate and Val, as far as I know, right?
I believe so.
Are 100% on
I
board.
have not heard anything otherwise.
Okay. So we'll have Nate and Val coming to you from the booth up at the Bevel Tap Room. And thank you so much to them for all of their effort and everything they have going on. In fact, a quick shout out to them. I saw a post that they're hiring. So if you want to drink all day and get paid for it, I think that's what maybe I misread the application, but
you might have.
It was something
Reading
along
comprehension
those lines.
isn't always your best.
But I think if you want to drink all day and get paid for it, yeah, just reach out to Nate and Val, and they just will give you money. It's amazing.
I think you have to do some real work. I think you might actually have to serve the beers.
One for you, one for me.
Hey, I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying.
So super excited. And again, we'll gloss over the fact that, we'll gloss over there is a lot of conversation. We'll see how it continues to play out. As Johnny and I have just kind of even said, we're not privy to all of the exact details, but certainly a conversation about the idea that this event and then the high profile that it is, having this company, the Absolute Extracts, be on board has certainly created, as you can imagine, a little bit of stir within the community.
Sean Jack, who's the tournament director for this event, did a really good interview on, I believe, is the Upshot this particular week, talking about some of this particular subject. And if you want to get a good in-depth idea on the whole process and what the hurdles they had to get through and what will be involved in the sponsorship, go ahead and give that a shout out and go listen to that podcast. Don't listen to any other part of the podcast.
Yeah.
Just the interview, though. The rest of the podcast, not so great.
Ouch.
I'm just kidding. They do a good job over it.
I don't believe we talked about it. I think in the last few weeks we've also seen Alta World's Jamie Thomas put out I don't want to call it a snippet, but put out a
Friday
piece,
Five.
The Friday Five. We saw one of those together.
Yeah,
I did not see last week.
Yeah, I did not see last week's. We saw one that when we were at GBO, Jamie Thomas is pushing a 5-minute kind of quick YouTube thing as far as what are the upcoming things this weekend? What should you know on the course if you're talking with your buddies? What's the general feeling going on in the sport? So, and he just goes through for 5 quick minutes, I believe, or 1 minute and 5 subjects. I think it's 5 minutes, and just kind of goes through it and talks about it. It's a fun concept. I'll be curious to see how it evolves and what becomes of it, and how all that stuff works. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to watch last week's. I watched the very first week that he did, and I'll have to kind of catch up on that.
All right. And thank you, Big Putt Bill Sherman. Thanks for the super chat. We appreciate it. Johnny, I know you were busy. I was a little bit busy. Any thoughts, fallout, or conversation as to the Derby this weekend?
I don't exactly know what happened. I know that the winner was disqualified for drifting into another lane.
Like Tokyo Drift?
I believe so. If I remember correctly, it was
That should be a horse's
The
name.
horse was taking a corner and it was just drifting its tail, and ultimately
It didn't have enough horsepower. Oh my
Wow.
gosh!
Wow,
Oh my gosh!
you went there.
Oh, that was so easy.
It's so
That
bad.
might be the only horse joke I could ever come up with too.
I
it
bet
was
you could
so-
jockey for another one. Anyway, we've now lost all of our listeners,
Yeah, understandably.
but that's what I saw, and I don't know enough rules about horse racing to find out. From what I saw, it looks like he did kind of shift into another lane, but I'm watching that race, and it doesn't appear for me for any horse that actually has a particular lane, or if it was just that they cut off another horse. Either way, they disqualified the winner. Second place ended up being the winner, and we move on with life.
Yeah, I knew nothing about it. I heard there was some hubbub later. You have informed me more than I already knew, which was almost nothing. And yeah, so okay, so that's what we can say on that. Disc Golf Nerd had asked if anyone has ever seen a player using a red radio flyer type wagon. Answer is absolutely, and I say that because my good pal Boyd Brown over in Arizona, he's one of the most gracious and amazing hosts. Shout out to Boyd and the First Light crew. Boyd has actually kind of famously brought a wagon with him wherever he goes and whenever he's competing. Usually they are filled with beverages, of course, different when he's playing versus not, but he's very graciously sharing his beverages. And apparently there are some really good videos of Boyd hopping on said wagon and maybe riding it down like hole 17 at Vista del Camino, and maybe or maybe not finding the OB water as he's taking the wagon down hole 17. There's not a lot of hills there, but
No, that's the
he
one
finds the
hill.
most useful one. So to answer you, I have seen some of that action, and Boyd, I think, has to be the most famous wagon puller in disc golf.
I'm going to apologize to Disc Golf Nerd because I did get a video from him this week, but we'll make sure to play that next week for a Disc Golf Nerd review. I completely forgot until I saw his name. I was like, oh, that's right. I forgot to pull that into the system. So we'll get a good review of, I believe it's the Kong next week from
Ooh.
Disc Golf Nerd.
All right.
That'll drive up our viewership.
Yeah,
So we got to make sure people know these things ahead of time.
that's a good idea. Way to let down Disc Golf Nerd.
It's
And Darren
my
LeMay asks or states that the Bucks are up 3-1. How's the excitement in Milwaukee?
It's very excited.
Okay, you're very convincing.
I know. No, honestly, the whole city is buzzing about the Bucks. Going up 3-1 on the Celtics, which at first looked like it was going to be a pretty tough series, and man, our guys just stepped up and up 3-1. I think next, I believe they go back to Boston, maybe for the next 2 games, and then back in Milwaukee for the final game. I'm not exactly sure where. What the series, or if it goes 1-1-1, but it's hard for a team to come back and win the next 3 games, especially against a team like the Bucks. So super excited to move on and hopefully get a chance to maybe go to the NBA championships. That would be
A first in our lifetime, right?
It might be. I mean, the first time we would remember it. At most, it would have been like in the late 70s, possibly, is when the Bucks last probably went. I would have to go back and think on that for sure.
And
Darren Lane says it goes 2-2, 1-1-1. So all right, so we'll be flip-flopping back and forth.
And albeit short, we've got to love the Cubs sweeping those Cardinals this last weekend for all of our hardcore Cubs fans, all of us out there, getting past and coming off just an abysmal start on the year.
Yeah,
now finding themselves in the front of the division, only by a
Correct.
half game, but quite a turnaround by the Cubs here in the last few
And the Brewers
games.
did the exact opposite. The Brewers came out to a
Yep.
blazing hot start and then just kind of went through a dark couple weeks, and now I believe we've won 4 in a row. maybe 5 now. I'm not sure, depending on what happened.
All right.
Today.
Well, the Brewers and the Cubs both win tonight, and
Cool.
our good friend Tom Jenkins, Big Daddy Jenkins, he keeps saying that he's going to turn the Brewers' luck around. He's been to 3 Brewers games. They've lost all 3. So tonight, now he's finally batting .250 because the Brewers were able to pull one out. So that's what's going on in sports around us, Darren. What is your old favorite disc that is no longer produced? What's an old favorite disc? I mean, probably the Midnight Flyer. Yeah. Do you have any disc that you missed? Well, you threw the MRV for quite a few years.
I threw the MRV and the MRX for a long time. I still have, I still have a couple first runs of both stuffed away. Those were great, but ultimately the MRX was replaced by the Buzz, which fit in my bag perfect. It was round, and it went right in between other discs.
Yeah, perfect.
So it was obviously the way to go. As far as, not truly out of production. Everybody always kind of clamors over older plastic. Like, for a long time I threw magnets, so everybody wanted the 4-chain magnet before they replaced it with the different stamp, even though they're probably the exact same mold.
And then there's the 2 chains.
No, there's not. God, wow. But as far as out of production, for me personally, not much. I know our good friend Steve Held loved the Z Putter and has a stack of them, and I'd give him his first one. I wish I had more of them because I would hawk them to him at a good price, make a nice profit on that. But ultimately, for me, no, there's really not a disc that hits that spot unless I really wanted to go back to the Typhoon.
Yeah, big Typhoon thrower.
I was at the time. Yeah. There wasn't much left.
That's true.
Was Typhoon and Cyclone, and that was about it.
Yeah, and I can't think of anything in particular that... there's older discs that I used to throw that I just simply moved away from, and by that I think like my best example is an XD. I did all of my putting and all of my approaching at one point with an XD. Now, granted, the only other 2 discs, like practically or 3 discs that existed were like, a magnet, a polecat was kind of in that time frame. Obviously, the AVR,
birdie,
and a birdie. Yeah, those were when I think about putters in the like mid to late 90s. Those were most of your putter options for the most part. Of course, there were a few others, but that was about it when you were looking at them. The Challenger from Discraft didn't exist yet, and the Banger and the Banger GT and didn't exist, and of course none of our other companies even existed. So either that or the Gum Putt or possibly the Blowfly.
The Blowfly. The Blowfly was always the most fun to play with in a parking lot. Like, I remember we would go to Worlds and go out into a parking lot and throw it around because it didn't matter if it hit a car because it was so gummy and soft that you weren't really going to damage anything. So we would just throw those things all around. It was so much fun.
Yes, and a few more old schoolers out there. I love it. The Piranha was relatively short-lived, I believe. The Super Puppy.
Do they still make the Panther?
That's a good question for Matt Parker, who's out there listening.
Yeah, and that's the only reason I thought about it is because I saw him. He stayed with us.
I don't believe the Panther's still in regular production.
Probably not.
I know that he was. The wheel is, if it is around, it is not. I don't believe it's still being produced. So I guess that answers your question. I'm not sure that company Quest AT is still producing discs at all. I guess would be the next question to that. So yeah, that's a good question. All right, Johnny. Do we have anything else that's not, is or isn't disc golf related?
No, but I just thought the XL. I don't know if Discraft still makes the XL. I highly doubt it. I think all that X series, all those X series, MRX.
The XS. Well, no, they were actually. What am I talking about? Maybe somebody can correct me. I feel like they still are because I know the XS.
The XS
is still being made, and I believe the XL is
the
as
XL
well.
Still
I know
being
there's
made?
still people throwing it. I know there's one in Nate Doss's bag.
Oh, that's well, Nate Doss also has that bag you could have dropped from 2004 and no one would know a difference.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm almost positive the XL is still available. The other thing that Discraft, here's a plug we're not getting paid for, just released like another, I want to say 20
unique Star Wars stamps.
Star Wars discs. Yeah.
I actually got a Star Wars with the $94 in funny money I
Dang,
got this weekend.
Baller.
Yeah.
Making it rain funny money.
I got 2 Z-Buzzes, one with Yoda stamp on it and the other with Vader stamp on it. So I was pretty excited. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'll make sure to grab these. And I grabbed 2 TI Undertakers, the Macbeth ones that I'll probably throw. I've got a bunch of them, and these are ones now that maybe I'll actually get out and have a chance to throw. And I got a Judge as well, just as a throwing putter, because the Judge I currently have in base plastic is getting a little beat up. So as a throwing putter, it was standing up a little bit, and that's not what I want for my throwing putter. I want something nice and stable. But the new Star Wars stamps, I think, are going to be more popular than the original ones that came out a few months ago.
Okay, so those. So this is a pretty. I don't know what to call it a random question, but along the lines of what you just said, we grew up in the era and time frame, and maybe more so region, where it's been almost always referred to as funny money.
Yeah.
So what I would love to know by a show of comments on the board, I'd love to know, what does your area call earnings or winnings or payout, funny money, script, whatever? What does your area call it? And I guess the follow-up to that is there anyone ever confused when someone like us refers to it as funny money? Do you think anyone's ever like, well, I know there is. I won't even wait for your answer. I know some people are like, what are they talking about? Because I think someone once challenged me online and said, I like they literally had no idea that
what
it meant in terms of their area, just called it something entirely different. They're like, did you get Monopoly money or what, or whatever? I'm curious to know what other people were called. And so a few answers on the board that are coming in are credit. Script.
And we've heard script before.
Yep, that's definitely a common one. Layaway, I've never heard that. Funny money in Minnesota, which is not too far from us. Maker says fruits of the arbitrage. Funny money in Michigan. Okay, so Minnesota, Michigan, and Wisconsin, I feel like have very, very similar disc golf scenes. And payout, Ace Run Productions says. Ace Run, thank you again for your contributions at Glass Blown Open. You get shout-outs as long as I can remember it, just so you know, for all of your thanks, your great contributions. Legacy Channel says, yeah, Terry, like a bubbler, only in Wisconsin. Seti says pesos.
I think you're getting ripped off there, Seti.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so I'll be curious to know if there's anything else outside of those. And in a similar sense, and this maybe is a little bit of a PSA, some areas, and we learned this many years in, that some areas refer to a weekly gathering when you get together and play disc golf. Some people will call them weeklies. Or if it's a slightly more organized or bigger version, and maybe not quite every week, they sometimes get monthlies. They'll be called a monthly.
Grassroots. Heard that before.
All right. What if SmashBoxx had a podcast network, like several podcasts brought to you by SmashBoxx, like ESPN or Barstool?
The thought has crossed our mind in the past.
For sure.
One of the issues that we have, obviously, is just consistency. I mean, look at someone like Yuli, who has now started 2 different podcasts, and
how many are still going?
I think maybe technically 1. I don't necessarily know if he's given up on the second one yet, although it appears on hiatus. I just think it's a time commitment. And if somebody wanted to do it, and it obviously, even with myself, doing the unsanctioned podcast, I got through like the first 6 or 7 or 8 really quickly, and that was great. And then just time caught up with me, and now I have one in the bank, and I just want to get more in the bank, and I think I'll release another group of them and kind of just do like, oh, look, almost make it a little less consistent. I would love it if it was more consistent. If I had more time, I probably would. But I want to bank up some and then release them, and then bank up some and release them. It would be awesome if I could get ahead of the process, but we'll see. It might be more of an off-season thing, which is when I started it. So,
well, and
it's all about the time commitment.
I would like to take that a step further, though, and say, and maybe this is or isn't where you were going with it too. We would be, and we have done this, we would be more than okay with, we'd be honored, maybe in some cases, we'd be honored and excited to work with other podcasters that would like to just simply help, have us help kind of utilize our resources, namely a lot of Johnny's brain power, but also the resources that we have along with creating a central spot for a lot of different podcasts. So if, and would take that one step further and just give it a specific and say, if Yuli and Brian were to essentially record the basics of their podcast and get it all together over to Johnny in a file, we could certainly, I think, find a perfectly good way to help distribute that under the SmashBoxxTV umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't really been overly public about it, although we've had people reach out to us. If there is someone that is going, hopefully, to commit and stay committed and do it continuously, and you're looking to have a podcast and you would kind of, you would be looking for maybe a little bit of that co-branding or that sharing that we can assist with, we'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Is that a fair way to put it?
Oh, certainly. And I mean, look, again, another example, Disc Golf History and Legends with Scott Stokely.
Bingo.
He was going strong for, 4, 5, 6 weeks. And then you run into a couple tech issues. He got a new job. He was traveling a lot more. He was trying to do it while driving and on the road, which I don't necessarily think is the best move, but trying to record it on his phone. A lot of it just, it's a commitment because it takes, like for the unsanctioned podcast, I record it. That takes an hour and a half. And then usually I have to edit it. I clean it up. I make sure, because there are times that we need to take things out. Unlike this podcast, which is live, where we just put it out, and I just the posts raw. The podcast, I'll usually just run through a couple quick filters, clean it up just a little bit, compress it. Make sure that the it's called the LUFS level is set to the appropriate spot, which is -16 for all you other podcasts out there. Please make sure that you're pushing your podcasts out at that. It is. It's not just because it's like what you do. It actually is because one of the reasons is Google Home, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. That's the volume that like your phone and Siri is automatically set to. So it doesn't suddenly appear much louder or much
way
quieter.
too quiet, yeah.
Which I know some of the podcasts. I was listening to a whole podcast about producing podcasts, and someone was saying that, oh, we produce ours at -24, and they played it next to each other, and it was just, you were like, how can you even hear that? So you must have to crank up your phone. So anyway, -16 LUFS. Look it up. But ultimately, it's a lot of work. I mean, each podcast takes like 5 to 6 hours of my time to edit, totally upload it, put it out there, and do a lot of that stuff. So
yeah. So if that is something that interests you, like I said, and you can get us halfway or 3/4 of the way, and then you're also just really looking for that distribution. Hopefully you've got, I don't want to just say your own branding. It would almost be pitched as a co-branded or within our podcast network. We can provide some visibility to it. We have the channels and the subscribers, and then I think it helps everyone. And I think, and it was asked on the board, well, a lot of the podcasts don't get any traction right away. Is that possible? There's too much content for the demographic. I want to answer that in a couple ways. This is a little social media-ish, but no matter what it is, you got to stick to it. I think that's the number one challenge. Mm-hmm. Way too many people, and whether that's you're a YouTuber or an Instagrammer, or you want to be super active or well-known on Twitter or your podcast, you think, oh man, I had 9 downloads this week. I had 12 downloads. I've run my Instagram page for a year, and I only have 700 subscribers. Guess what? Like, everybody starts at 0, and you're certainly not going to grow it, and it's not going to improve if you don't stick with it. And you have to continue to put out content that you enjoy putting out, that you enjoy making, and then hopefully the followers will then come along with it. But it has to be enjoyable, and you have to be making it for yourself, and then the market will find you. And I can't say that enough. And I think too many people get way too caught up in, oh man, we only had 12 downloads this week. Yeah, not everything's a hit instantly. And by quitting or moving on, you're definitely not going to grow it.
We were just looking at our numbers. Right now, after show, it's 11:44. We have 217 viewers watching.
Which is crazy, of course.
Because when we first started, we were getting excited to get near 100 for the regular show with a guest. When Paul came on and he was pushing like 150 watchers, we're like, oh, look at how many people are watching us. None of these people have lives.
Yeah, you silly smashies.
And now, it builds up an audience. I was just looking at the YouTube views for your podcast last week. There were 3,000 views.
Yes!
That's just YouTube views. That does not count podcast downloads, which there are none for this particular episode, but other things. So it takes we've been doing this for
too long.
5 years?
2014. So probably the end of 2014 is when we started. November 11th, 2014.
So ultimately 4.5 years, and it just takes a long time. You have to be dedicated, and you have to try to be consistent. Like if you're gonna do it twice a month, or do it once a week, or just as long as, or if it's a monthly program, you have to.
And you have to stick to it in terms of always finding a way to put out that content. When you do have big gaps in it, you're not going to gain any traction that way either. So whether that's a weekly, twice a week, 3 times a week, monthly, whatever it is, if you have those big gaps, people maybe really like it and really enjoy it and want to subscribe, but then if you don't put out anything for a while, it's going to be hard to get them back. So, I feel that's true, of course, on YouTube and of any of your social media platforms, is you have to be putting out that content. And I think one of the best lessons that I've learned when I first started doing the Disc Golf Guy vlogs, I always said, I won't do a second take. Like if I don't screw up in the first 5 seconds, and I screw up instead on minute 4, like it's staying in there, because I hated editing and I wasn't very good at it and I didn't love it. And so I always just had the rule of there's no second takes and there's going to be little to no editing. I've evolved a little since then, but I still kind of have that mentality. Like you have to get it out. It's never going to be perfect, and just get it out there for, and some people actually find, you effing up or making mistakes somewhat endearing and a little bit more relatable.
Yeah. Perfect is the enemy of done, because you'll never be done if you're trying to go perfect. But this is kind of crazy, but over the past couple months, I've really started to enjoy editing the audio podcasts. And I wish I had more time to edit the Smashbox one. Usually that's just more of a rough cut, but for the unsanctioned one, I literally go through each individual and listen to almost the entire thing and cut out any weird blips or flips or mouth clicks a lot of times, because if you listen to people talk, most of them, when they're just about to start, it goes, okay, and they always click their tongue. Every person almost does it. And I take out a lot of those. So, and then I go through my own, and then I add obviously the intro, I add an outro, then it gets into the metadata, but I enjoy going through, because I like playing with the different settings. Like, oh, what happens if I add a little bit of reverb here? What happens if I pan this a little right? I add some compression here. Oh, wow, this makes it sound a little bit better. Like, ooh, I didn't like the way that sounded. I don't know why, but I just enjoy it. It's really tedious, and I don't normally enjoy tedious things like that. But
that sounds miserable to me.
I'm sure it does. And I don't know why. I just enjoy doing it. And it has nothing to do with the content. I'm not even hardly listening to what the people are saying. I'm listening for the quality of the audio. And it's really goofy. And then eventually at some point, I'm sure I'll just get a process down. But I was actually tempted to buy audio editing software that wasn't Adobe Audition because it had all these other features that were built in, but it was like $700. It's what real audio professionals use. And I thought, I don't love it that much.
Yeah, that, and to be fair, some of the reasons why I don't care for that, and sometimes I'm even challenged within actual golf editing. I am deaf in one ear, and so I clearly am not as finely tuned as some other people when it comes to listening or hearing some of those extra things that come in. And to throw another piece on top of that, it's crazy to me the varying levels of quality when it comes to someone's internal soundboard on a computer versus their external versus how good are your actual headphones or your earbuds. I can't tell you how many times I've listened to something that sounds perfectly fine to me. All hearing loss aside, it sounds perfectly fine to me on the system I might be using. And you listen to someone else's system and you're like, oh my gosh, they're night and day. Obviously one's better and one's worse. They can just be absolutely night and day. I think that's a real challenge because then sometimes you see the feedback, whether it's on YouTube or in a podcast feedback, and someone's like, oh, this sounds terrible. Oh, this sounds great. And you're like, really? Because I listened to it in 3 different ways and it still sounded fine to me. But their system is, can be set up a little bit differently. So it's very interesting. But the long and short of all of that podcast content conversation is you need to put it out. You need to get it there. If co-branding or collaborating or working with someone like us or anyone, partnering up with people, I think it's great. I think if you do work with someone else, it might be a little bit more easy for the consistency because you almost could be more accountable. When I think about if Disc Golf Nerd out here or Ace Runner, whomever, anyone that's looking to do something said, all right, we're going to get you a podcast every week. And then you fall behind or something, then we could say, hey, what's going on? How's that going? Can we help? What's the hang up? You have that a little bit of that support network as well. So anyway, something to think about for everyone out there. And speaking of help and support network, what a segue I didn't try to set myself up for. Disc Golf Guy post-production, which will include Johnny and myself this time. So that's different in itself.
Let's be real. I'm going to come out and do catch cam for you.
Uh-huh.
You're barely going to put any of my shots in.
If they're good, I'll use them.
Like I said, you're barely going to put any of my shots in.
I'm going to trust that they are top-notch. I'll trust that. And, we'll see some of you at Beaver State.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've never been out to Beaver State, and I'm really excited to see Milo. Everybody's always talked about it, and I've seen it on video before. I'm excited to actually go check out the course.
Yeah, well, if you too would like to check out the course and check out the coverage, and you would like to support it, being that it is a PDGA National Tour event, Keen is the presenting sponsor of the actual event. However, we have I'll say latitude, although they're not a sponsor. We have the latitude or flexibility to acquire additional support. And I'm just going to say, and I think all of our players will tell you this as well and agree with it, the Portland area to go travel to play, to film, believe it or not, is one of the more expensive areas to get to for the year. So I will have some sponsorship opportunities available. Please reach out. It's a company or a club, or you want your event that's in September and you'd like some commercials played or some highlights or something talked about in the video for Beaver State. Whatever it might be, those opportunities are available. So please feel free to reach out to me personally because hopefully we could find some representation. Johnny and I will be covering FPO1, as in lead card in the FPO division. We've seen playoffs there. We've seen unbelievable battles taking place out there throughout the years. So really, really looking forward to get back out there. And like we said, Johnny V gets to see Milo for the first time ever in person.
Dun-dun.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And there's going to be some extra social media stuff we're going to be doing. We're looking forward to going big time with it. Should be a lot of fun. All right, we're going to start to close things out. I'll read through any other questions first, and then we can start to shut it down.
Shut her down.
The last Disc Golf Nerd says his last episode with Dixon got corrupted by the way of computer and lost for a couple hours. I was gutted, but we found a way to save the raw data and recover it. Was that the one that was chopped up like every 6 seconds?
No,
or is that a different one?
that was a different Dixon podcast that he had come to me and tried to. I thought I could put it together, and unfortunately, it just he couldn't send me all the files because his internet was so slow. So I ended up not doing anything. But I think he ended up re-recording some of that. But I believe this is different. What Disc Golf Nerd is.
Oh, all right. Dixon and his
double recordings. That's what I highly recommend.
That's another good, for sure, a
sometimes
good
do
tip. Seti says, thanks for a good show. Good night. We appreciate it, Seti. Thank you for joining us, Disc Golf Nerd. We obviously appreciate you for always joining us and providing some great content that we throw in here. What are your opinions on Worlds this year, Northwood Gold? Brian, I'll quickly just say, Dana has given it a huge glowing stamp of approval, huge grin and glowing stamp of approval. He says it's good. We have not seen the course.
Not the Northwood Gold.
Yeah, they are hosting a World's warm-up event there this weekend, so somebody that wants to go see it and play it in a competitive PDGA format will have the opportunity to do so, but I have not seen the course. And I'm going to say, if Dana comes back with that kind of a response, as he's now told me 2 or 3 different occasions, that it's a solid layout, I've got to trust that it's got to be a pretty good
Dana knows
layout.
what he's talking about.
Yeah, so have not seen it. The one thing that is, speaking from our world, the one challenge that we see with it is we have not been able to take our existing equipment there to film. And currently that is not the plan because of that challenge. And so that's the one downside to us about that course just in general, is the fact that we've been on that property 2 or 3 times in the last 5 years. We've tried to do live broadcasting from that property, and it just has not worked for us. So as of right now, when the men play at Eureka and the women play at Sunset Hills, that's where the focus of our live coverage will be for the World Championships. If there's ever any change up that would include Northwood, that would be awesome, but that would require some other big things to happen, so I'm not sure that's going to happen. Who takes down San Francisco? Quick hot take there, Johnny.
You can't bet against Macbeth. I mean, and that's not just because Hannah just jumped on the board. Ultimately, he's playing so well that he has to be the favorite. I mean, he's playing at a level.
He won there last year.
He won there last year. He's playing at a level that we haven't seen him play this consistently in a few years. He's always had those spikes the last 2 years, but now it seems like he's got it all together. So I think that I'm not going out on a limb at all by saying I think Paul Macbeth is probably going to take this one.
All right. And last year we saw a great battle. Sarah Hokum. I think this was the event that actually Hokum derailed Paige from the nonstop wind train.
This was,
if that's a thing.
Sarah shot very, very good golf. She hasn't been shooting that well this year, I think.
As well, yep.
Yeah, she's probably still getting used to her plastic, is what I heard, and learning a lot of new discs is taking her a little bit longer than we've seen other players. But Sarah's also got a very unique game, so I would have a hard time in this one betting against Kat. Kat seems to have. She seems to be in a good place right now. Her game is very well rounded. She's got the distance, and ultimately, it would be hard. It's hard to go against her.
Okay, and I think also worth noting for moving into this weekend, the top 3 women in our sport, Paige Pierce, Katrina Allen, Sarah Hokum, all 3 of them took off this last weekend. None of them competed. Mm-hmm. Paige, I think, was out fishing. Katrina was out cooking meals for hundreds of people. No, I'm not sure what she was doing for sure, and I don't know what Sarah was doing either. But I think Sarah was actually found herself in possibly in the Illinois area as she was getting a wrap put on her van. Maybe that was this weekend. She has a new wrap, thanks to, I think, Miles and Paragon. But the top 3 women in our sport took off this last weekend. Jessica Weiss didn't. I don't believe Lisa Fakis was off either. I think she was out competing as well. Now, will the week of rejuvenation help? Will it hurt? I just throwing it out there as a thought that the top 3 women took off this last weekend. So we'll see how that plays out next year or next Sorry, this weekend. Watch out for Gilbert or for Thomas Gilbert, of course.
He's a steal in fantasy. That's what I'm saying right now.
He certainly is. What hole is there going to be a live cam at SFO? Don't count on that.
I would not count on that for this particular event. This is a Disc Golf Pro Tour event, and I'm not on site to help coordinate that type of stuff like I was at GBO. So I don't believe that there is going. I know there will not be one.
Yeah. Oh, and Makers Telemark says he does not see Lisa registered for this weekend. So, all right, everyone, we are now officially going to call it, as we've had such a great night. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Hannah, you came in late. Next time we'll have to have you in the after show. Join us when you're out on that West Coast. But it's been great having you guys. We appreciate, love all our Smashies out there. We love our Patreon Smashies even more. For Johnny V, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, this has been Podcast 246 After Show. Looking forward to seeing you this weekend for the San Francisco Open. And we'll see you next Tuesday for the recap when you step inside the Smash Box.